Chapter 2001. Qin Song's funeral was organized by Ning Shu. Qin Song did not wait for his daughter to come back, and his daughter did not come back to mourn. Qin Song only had one daughter, and it was Ning Shu who held the spirit basin like a son. After all, Qin Song was the leader of a famous martial arts sect. Now that he had passed away, many people would come to offer their condolences. Many martial arts sects had not yet returned home, but now they had to go back to attend the funeral. This feeling was really quite speechless. It felt like the sun was setting in the west of the Wanjian villa. Every day there was a mess, and the things that happened really made people speechless. It was simply a war product of the best. Some people looked at the busy people and said that Ning Shu was a simple and honest person. After such a thing happened, he still let his father-in-law be buried grandly. However, in their hearts, they were a little disdainful of Ning Shu. Ning Shu's personality was soft, and he actually did not flare up when faced with such a thing. People who practiced martial arts paid attention to following their hearts. Sometimes, when stubbornness came, they would even go crazy. Ning Shu, who was happy to repay kindness and revenge, was narrow-minded and used martial arts to violate the rules. Such a temperamental Ning Shu was really unbearable. It served him right that his fiancée ran away with someone else. Of course, Ning Shu knew about these people's discussions, but he did not care at all. Qin Nanlian once again came to Ning Shu and told him that if life in the Wanjian villa was not good, he could go to the Lingyun villa. There was really no need to suffer so much. Ning Shu just smiled and did not say anything. Did he really think that she was a man without balls? Haha, Ning Shu liked to be polite before resorting to force. There was nothing more satisfying than being in control of the reason on his side. The reason was on his side. Even if he did something bad, the reason was still on his side. Being impulsive could not solve anything, and being eloquent was even more useless. She could not drag these gossipers into a war of words. How tiring would that person be to live? When Nanlian saw how calm Ning Shu was, she almost exploded with anger when she heard the rumors. It was clearly Qin Yanji who was the bully. Why were these people gossiping about Chong Xifeng? After the funeral ended, the people who had come to attend the funeral left. Some of the 10,000 Swords Villa's disciples came up with all sorts of excuses, such as their family members being sick and wanting to go home to get married, or wanting to go home to inherit their family business. Ning Shu didn't say anything and let the disciples leave. Their hearts were already scattered, so there was no point in forcing them to stay. It would easily cause trouble. Everyone loved to join in on the fun. When they saw many disciples leaving, they also wanted to leave. In just a few days, the entire Myriad Swords Villa had become much quieter. It was cold and cheerless, and it gave off a feeling of decline. It was more or less Ning Shu who was supporting the 10,000 Swords Manor by himself. Moreover, the business of the 10,000 Swords Manor's shops was very quiet. In any case, bad luck always came one after another. When Ning Shu saw that the weapon shop wasn't making any profits, he closed it down. Do you want to leave the 10,000 Swords Villa and go to the Lingyun Villa with me? When they were eating, Nanlian sighed again about this matter. Ning Shu ate the food that Nanlian had made. Now, the servants who stayed at the 10,000 Swords Villa were lazy. Ning Shu didn't say anything. These servants would stay. When the time came, Qin Yanji would still come back. Ning Shu said to Nanlian, I want to leave the 10,000 Swords Villa. If it's not convenient for you, you can leave. Nanlian quickly asked, where are you going? What do you mean by leaving the 10,000 Swords Villa? Ning Shu put down his chopsticks and wiped his mouth with a handkerchief. He said, I want to go to the demon sect. Nanlian immediately tightened her grip on her chopsticks. Her eyes were a bit red. You want to save Qin Yanji? Ning Shu nodded. I promised Master that I would find little junior sister. But Qin Nianji took the initiative to leave with Situ Sun. Her heart is no longer with you. Why do you still want to do such a useless thing? She doesn't want you. I want you. Yi Nanlian really experienced the bitterness of a woman chasing a man. His heart was really like iron. Moreover, the other party's heart had flown to another woman. This kind of feeling was very powerless, very powerless. Yi Nanlian put down her chopsticks and said, "Then I'll go with you." "What are you going to do?" Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. She was going to fight, not go on an outing. Moreover, Ning Shu didn't want to drag Yi Nanlian into this kind of thing. Ning Shu put down the handkerchief in his hand and narrowed his eyes slightly. "This is a matter of the 10,000 Swords Villa. Your Lingyun Villa shouldn't get involved and complicate things. You never know what will happen until the last moment." Yi Nanlian's heart skipped a beat. She felt that Ning Shu's words meant something, but when she thought about it carefully, there was no meaning. Yi Nanlian thought that if she followed Chong Xiufeng to the demon sect, it would be troublesome if the demon sect held a grudge against the Lingyun Villa. Not only was she Yi Nanlian, but she was also a disciple of the Lingyun Villa. Her father was the villa master of the Lingyun Villa. She couldn't do something as ridiculous as Ning Shu's father. However, when she thought about how Ning Shu was going to such a dangerous place, she felt that she couldn't just do nothing. Ning Shu smiled slightly. "This is a matter between me and little junior sister. It's not suitable for you to get involved." Yi Nanlian raised her head to look at Ning Shu and met his sparkling eyes. She bit her lip and said, "Then be careful. I know you like your little junior sister, but don't risk your life for her." Yi Nanlian didn't belittle Qin Nianji anymore. Belittling Qin Nianji was the same as belittling the person she liked. If it wasn't for Chong Xiufeng's deep love for Qin Nianji, Yi Nanlian might not have liked Chong Xiufeng. In short, it was called a contradiction. Ning Shu nodded. "I know. Are you going back to the Lingyun Villa? I'll wait for you here. If you come back safely, I'll go back with peace of mind," Yi Nanlian said. The next day, Ning Shu simply packed up and mounted his horse with his sword. He said to Yi Nanlian, "Please take care of the Wanjian Villa for me." "Okay. If you encounter any danger, don't resist it. If the first time isn't enough, try a second time. Don't risk your life." Yi Nanlian felt that Qin Nianji wasn't worth Chong Xiufeng treating her like this. This was clearly a thankless task. Chong Xiufeng's heart was all over Situ Sun. It wouldn't be good to spend so much effort to save her. In the end, she would definitely complain. "I know." Ning Shu urged the horse's belly and galloped away. Yi Nanlian pursed her lips and finally let out a long sigh. The people of the demon sect also knew that they weren't welcome, so they set up their headquarters on a mountain peak that was easy to defend and difficult to attack. Ning Shu hurried for several days before arriving at the mountain gate of the demon sect. Ning Shu leisurely walked in the mountains. In the summer forest, the leaves on the tree leaves dripped onto the ground. Ning Shu's body was a bit damp. Ning Shu pointed his finger. Although there were restrictions, he could still prevent the dew from dripping on his body. Chapter 2002. Ning Shu shuttled through the forest and walked halfway up the mountain. There was already a group of people waiting for her. At the front was Situ Sun, sitting on a chair. His clothes were sloppy, and his collar was slightly open. He looked very dashing. He held a wine glass in one hand and slowly drank. "Drinking so early in the morning, I hope you have a fatty liver." Ning Shu saw the people from the demon sect waiting for her. Her expression didn't change as she said to Situ Sun, "I've troubled you to wait for me." Ning Shu wasn't surprised that Situ Sun knew about her return. After all, she had been on the road for a few days. The news should have reached Situ Sun's ears. Also, Qin Nianji was still in his hands. Situ Sun guessed that the people from the Wanjian villa wouldn't give up. But when he saw Ning Shu come alone, his expression turned ugly. Was this man too arrogant? Did he really think his martial arts were unparalleled? Situ Sun raised his wine glass, and a maid from the demon sect behind him immediately poured wine for Situ Sun. Situ Sun slowly swirled the wine bottle and said dryly, "I'm telling you to go back to where you came from. Don't treat this place as a place where you can come and go as you please." Ning Shu nodded. "Okay. Give my little sister back to me, and I'll leave." Situ Sun couldn't bear to see Ning Shu like this. He always seemed so casual and didn't care about Situ Sun at all. This feeling was very depressing. He was clearly the one who stole Qin Yanji and his fiancée, but he was still acting like this. Situ Sun wondered if this man even liked Qin Yanji. Food was more delicious and precious when it was eaten. The eldest disciple of the Wanjian villa, a genius, should be angry out of humiliation. Was he pretending or did he really not care? The corners of Situ Sun's mouth twitched. He was full of malice. "Qin Yanji is now mine. Do you still want to take her back to marry you? Ning Shu, you really are a fucking animal. You really did do that to Qin Yanji. Maybe she already has a little treasure in her stomach." When Situ Sun saw that Ning Shu's expression was a little strange, he finally felt a little happier in his heart. Ever since Qin Yanji had arrived at the demon sect, she had looked like she had lost all hope. She had always wanted to escape. Later, Situ Sun had locked her up. Qin Yanji had refused to eat, so Situ Sun had forced food into her mouth. It had only been a few days, so Situ Sun hadn't done anything to Qin Yanji yet. Later on, Situ Sun felt that keeping Qin Yanji locked up like this really didn't seem like he wanted to take revenge. He simply made Qin Yanji the lowliest servant girl. She had to pour night incense every day, wash clothes every day, and let her be bullied by the other servants. Then Situ Sun watched from the side. Although Qin Yanji was a child of the underworld, she had never done any household chores. There were people who took good care of her food, clothing, housing, and transportation. She had never done such a thing before. It was inevitable that she would be clumsy and not do a good job, break things, and often be bullied by the other maidservants. Situ Sun's heart ached when he saw this, but he made himself harden his heart and teach those who bullied Qin Yanji a lesson in private. In short, he was quite conflicted. Situ Sun said that Qin Yanji was already one of his people purely to anger Ning Shu. If it had been the person who entrusted him, he might have been angered, but that was because Ning Shu didn't take it to heart at all. Ning Shu directly drew his sword and said, "Looks like we have to fight." Situ Sun directly threw his wine glass and stood up. "What kind of place do you think the demon sect is? You come and go as you please, and you want to take people away as if they are walking on flat ground." Groups of people from the demon sect rushed over to Ning Shu. They didn't care about bullying at all. Ning Shu's expression didn't change at all. He raised his sword and slashed at these people. With a wave of his sword, sword energy surged out and hit these people. He held the sword and slashed without hesitation. When the sword energy hit the people's bodies, it immediately caused them to spit out blood and be in extreme pain. Some people directly fainted. Situ Sun didn't expect this person to be so strong. These people from the demon sect were no match for her at all. Situ Sun directly drew his cold light sword. This sword was a famous divine weapon in the Jianghu. At least, it was a divine sword that the 10,000 Swords Villa couldn't forge. Situ Sun's face darkened. He raised his sword and attacked Ning Shu. Ding! 2 slashes made an ear-piercing sound. Ning Shu's sword immediately cracked. Ning Shu took 2 steps back and looked at his own sword. TSK, the quality wasn't good enough. Situ Sun didn't give Ning Shu time to breathe. He fiercely attacked Ning Shu. Ding! 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 Sparks flew in all directions. Situ Sun used all of his power to kill Ning Shu. Ning Shu's face also darkened. After one sword broke, he took out another one. The 10,000 Swords Villa was a place to forge weapons. They didn't have anything else, but they had a lot of weapons. Situ Sun was frustrated that he couldn't kill Ning Shu even after a long time. He had used all of his strength, but the other party was like waves after waves, full of energy. This made Situ Sun even more unhappy. With a wave of his sword, he directly broke Ning Shu's sword. Ning Shu destroyed another sword. Ning Shu looked at the broken sword. His equipment couldn't compare. However, Ning Shu directly took the broken sword and fought with Situ Sun. Spiritual energy covered the sword, releasing sword chi. Situ Sun dodged the sword chi and stabbed his sword at Ning Shu. Ning Shu dodged Situ Sun. This battle was called a stalemate. Situ Sun's heart was in a mess. This kind of stalemate was something he didn't want to see. He came to the demon sect alone and escaped unscathed. This was a slap to the demon sect's face. Therefore, Situ Sun had to kill Ning Shu. Otherwise, how could he intimidate those who coveted the demon sect? The two sides fought more and more fiercely. Situ Sun used all of his strength. He couldn't completely kill Ning Shu in a short time. Stop fighting. Qin Yanji stumbled out. Ning Shu was happy. She finally appeared, so she didn't have to go looking for him everywhere in the demon sect. Qin Yanji was wearing the clothes of a servant girl. Her hair was in a simple bun. Her face was smaller than before, and her chin was sharper. It stopped the two of them from fighting. The two of them hit each other hard. They were rebounded by each other's power and took a few steps back. They stopped temporarily. Ning Shu said to Qin Yanji, "Master passed away." What? Qin Yanji was shocked. She didn't recover for a long time. She asked, "Brother, what did you say?" Ning Shu said, "Master passed away. He passed away a few days after you left. His condition worsened, so I'm taking you home now. I promised Master that I would get you out of here." Ning Shu said indifferently. Qin Yanji didn't think that leaving like this would be farewell forever. When she left, her father was clearly fine. Qin Yanji couldn't believe that he had passed away so suddenly. She couldn't accept it. She couldn't accept that the only relative in the world who had loved her so much had passed away. She couldn't even see him for the last time. Tears streamed down Qin Yanji's cheeks, and she looked completely dumbfounded. Chapter 2003. Qin Yanji, who had just heard the bad news, couldn't suppress the sadness in her heart. She asked Situ Sun, "Why didn't you tell me my father was gone?" She didn't know anything about the demon sect. Unless Situ Sun told his subordinates, how could she not know anything? Also, no one had ever mentioned anything about the Wanjian villa in front of her. As a result, she didn't know anything. Situ Sun laughed coldly and said, "Since you left with me, you are now my slave. This wasn't anything important to begin with. Why should I tell you specifically? Why should I tell a slave that your father is dead?" Situ Sun's words were really vicious. It made Qin Yanji's body tremble. Her face was full of shock and sadness. Ning Shu said, "Before Master died, he told me to save you. Now come with me." Ning Shu walked towards Qin Yanji. Situ Sun immediately blocked Qin Yanji's path and said coldly, "You want to take my people away?" "No way." Ning Shu only said, "I want to take Shimi to Master's grave to kowtow." "Why are you stopping me?" "You have no reason to stop me." Qin Yanji looked at Situ Sun, who was blocking her. His figure was tall and strong. Even from the back, he looked like a handsome man. But why did he have to hurt her like this? Why did he have to be so cruel to her? Qin Yanji bit her lip. She took out a hairpin and stabbed it directly into Situ Sun's back. Situ Sun grunted and looked at the hairpin in his back. Qin Yanji's face was full of sadness and despair. Her hands were shaking again. "You dare to touch me?" Situ Sun said darkly. He frowned and looked at Qin Yanji with eyes full of violence. Qin Yanji's heart trembled. She stubbornly said, "I hate you. I didn't get to see my father for the last time." Ning Shu said directly, "Shimmy, Master's health has always been poor. He had internal injuries. When he saw you leave with the demon sect at the banquet, his heart was attacked and he passed away a few days later." Qin Yanji wanted to blame Situ Sun for not being able to see her father. She clearly left with others and worsened her father's injuries, but she wanted to blame someone else. Ning Shu's words were just short of directly saying that she had killed her father. In short, Qin Yanji had no choice. Ning Shu was more curious about whether Qin Yanji's kung fu had been fed to the dogs. Qin Yanji's face grew even paler. She burst into tears. "Father, I'm sorry. I told you back then that I wasn't poisoned. It was Situ Sun who tricked you. Look, you're being tortured by Situ Sun now. He even made Master's internal injuries worse." She wondered what he was doing. Situ Sun didn't think that Qin Yanji would actually dare to attack him. His heart exploded like a volcano. Enduring the pain on the back of his hand, he sneered and said, "Qin Yanji, you are no longer Qin Yanji. You are my slave. Your life is in my hands. If you want to leave, I will kill you and your senior brother." "Ning Shu, you can't kill me." He only knew how to scare ignorant girls. After going through so much, he felt that Qin Yanji was still an ignorant girl. Situ Sun liked to threaten people like this, but Qin Yanji liked it. If the two of them had always been like this, Ning Shu didn't mind helping them to be together so that they wouldn't harm others. But after that, the two of them were deeply affectionate and happy. Of course, this was all after the client died. "Junior sister, Master kept talking about you before he died. He didn't stop breathing and left with regrets," Ning Shu said. When Qin Yanji heard this, her guilt and affection for her father made her choose to leave with Ning Shu without hesitation. "I won't allow you to leave. You are my slave. How dare you leave here without my permission?" Situ Sun grabbed Qin Yanji's hand, and Ning Shu grabbed Qin Yanji's other hand. The three of them were like a tug-of-war. Ning Shu directly released a ray of qi toward Situ Sun's chest. The invisible qi drilled into Situ Sun's heart, causing him to immediately release his hand and clutch his chest. He spat out a mouthful of blood. "Situ Sun." Qin Yanji was shocked and quickly wanted to check on Situ Sun's injury. She had only stabbed him in the back. How could it be so serious? Ning Shu grabbed Qin Yanji and didn't allow her to go over. He raised his sword and stabbed toward Situ Sun's heart. Qin Yanji was so shocked that her voice became shrill. "Senior brother, don't." Situ Sun used his sword to block Ning Shu's attack, but the pain in his heart was unbearable. He was distracted for a moment, and Ning Shu seized the empty space to stab him in the heart. "Senior brother, don't." Qin Yanji was so scared that her legs turned to jelly. She felt like there was a huge force in her chest that wanted to tear her heart apart. She was usually bullied by Situ Sun, so she hated him to the core. But seeing him about to be killed by her senior brother, Qin Yanji's heart was filled with pain. Ning Shu didn't listen to Qin Yanji's words. He directly pierced Situ Sun's heart and body with his sword. Situ Sun's eyes narrowed as he looked down at his chest. Then he raised his sword and stabbed at Ning Shu, wanting to die together with him. Ning Shu pulled out his sword, and blood spurted out. Qin Yanji was completely disheartened as she watched Situ Sun use his sword to support his body. Blood dripped onto the ground and formed a small pool of blood. Qin Yanji trembled as she walked over. She wanted to touch Situ Sun, but she didn't dare. Situ Sun looked at Qin Yanji, and his eyes grew dimmer and dimmer. He fell into Qin Yanji's arms. Situ Sun, don't die. Wake up. Wake up. Qin Yanji hugged Situ Sun's body and wailed. Ning Shu went over to pull her up, but Qin Yanji shook off Ning Shu's hand. Why did you kill him? Senior brother, you're too scary. Ning Shu said dryly, the hatred of stealing your wife is irreconcilable. Didn't you always want to be rid of him? You should be happy now. But you didn't have to kill him. Senior brother, why did you become so cruel? Why? Qin Yanji complained to Ning Shu. It was as if the sky had collapsed. She hugged Situ Sun's body and refused to let go. Ning Shu only wanted to say that she had wanted to kill Situ Sun for a long time. She had waited until now to make her move. Fine, her fiancé was hugging another woman's man to accuse her of being cruel. She was such a heartless and unreasonable evil person. Qin Yanji's expression was a bit dazed. Ning Shu saw that there were people from the demon sect surrounding them, so he directly slashed Qin Yanji's neck with his knife, knocking her unconscious. When he lifted Qin Yanji up, he slashed Situ Sun's neck. Some people's hearts were on the right side, so it was safer to make an additional cut. Ning Shu carried Qin Yanji as they avoided being surrounded and pursued by the people from the demon sect. When they arrived at the foot of the mountain, there was a white horse. Ning Shu leapt onto the horse's back with a tap of his toes. He squeezed the horse's belly and galloped away. After galloping for a while, Ning Shu saw that the horse couldn't take it anymore and stopped. Chapter 2004. Ning Shu put Qin Yanji down from his shoulder. She was still unconscious. Ning Shu took out his canteen to drink some water and silently looked at Qin Yanji. Qin Yanji had lost a lot of weight after leaving home. It looked like she had suffered a lot. Why did he mistake pain for love? Yi Nanlian saw Ning Shu and immediately pulled on the reins to stop the horse. She beautifully flipped off the back of the horse. Chong Xiafeng. Ning Shu raised his brows and asked, "Why are you here?" Yi Nanlian tied the horse to a tree and walked in front of Ning Shu. "Are you okay?" She looked up and down at Ning Shu and saw blood on Ning Shu's body. "Where are you hurt?" Ning Shu shook his head. "This isn't my blood." Situ Sun had spilled it on her. "Why are you here?" "I was worried something had happened to you, so I came." Yi Nanlian turned and saw Qin Yanji leaning against the tree. She asked in surprise, "What happened to her?" "I killed Situ Sun. She was too sad to return to Wanjian Villa, so I knocked her out," Ning Shu said. Yi Nanlian was a bit surprised. She didn't think Chong Xiafeng would be willing to knock Qin Yanji out. Then she was surprised. "You killed Situ Sun?" "Yes. He had kept him alive until now. There was no reason to let Situ Sun jump around." Qin Yanji groaned and was about to wake up. Ning Shu walked over and knocked her out again with a karate chop. This clean and efficient movement made Ning Shu's eyebrows twitch uncontrollably. Was it really okay to knock her out as soon as she woke up? Ning Shu noticed Yi Nanlian's gaze and explained, "She's very sad about Situ Sun's death. She'll probably make a fuss along the way. We might as well let her sleep so she won't be sad or make a fuss." Yi Nanlian nodded. In order to prevent the people of the Devil's Sect from chasing after them, Ning Shu carried her on the back of the horse and rode away. Yi Nanlian breathed a sigh of relief. At least nothing happened. Yi Nanlian was restless in the 10,000 Swords manner. After Ning Shu left for a day, she also rode her horse towards the Devil's Sect. After spending a few days in the wilderness, they finally made it back to Wanjian Villa. However, when Qin Yanji woke up on the way back, she was really crying and wailing. After making a fuss, there was dead silence. She looked at Ning Shu with cold and resentful eyes. She questioned Ning Shu as to why he had killed Situ Sun. Both of you are very important to me. If either of you got into trouble, I would be very sad. But why did you have to kill him? Ning Shu only smirked in response to Qin Nan's criticism. He remained silent for the rest of the time. There would always be people who would defeat you with their rich experience. Ning Shu wanted to ask Qin Yanji why he couldn't kill Situ Sun. Ning Shu knew that Situ Sun's death would be a devastating blow to Qin Yanji. Seeing the current situation, Ning Shu only wanted to say that it was awesome. Yi Nanlian saw Qin Yanji's heartbroken expression and blamed everything on Chong Xiefeng. She couldn't help but want to defend Ning Shu. However, Ning Shu and Yi Nanlian shook their heads. There was no need to say anything. Qin Yanji was now immersed in her own world of sorrow. She probably swore to herself that she would never give Chong Xiefeng a chance in this lifetime. She was now Qin Yanji's enemy. After returning to Wanjian Villa, Qin Yanji locked herself in her room and didn't eat or drink. She was in a daze. Ning Shu thought, I don't care if you live or die. You can do whatever you want. Yi Nanlian was really conflicted. Why was this man still thinking about marrying Qin Yanji at a time like this? If he still married her, they would be a resentful couple. What was Chong Xiefeng thinking? He had a good life, but he had to face a woman who was like a piece of wood and had no soul. Couldn't she find someone who could be there for her and help her through thick and thin? Yi Nanlian was a bit disheartened. The next day after returning to Wanjian Villa, she said goodbye to Ning Shu. I should go back. My father must be worried. Yi Nanlian felt terrible about wanting to leave, but she also hoped that this man could make her stay. Ning Shu nodded. Be careful on the road. I will visit Lingyun Villa when I have time. Yi Nanlian's face paled. She saw Ning Shu's expression as usual, as if she wasn't affected by her departure. Her eyes immediately turned sour. She was truly heartbroken. Yi Nanlian felt that it wasn't that she couldn't marry Chong Xiefeng, but she didn't know when she could recover from this heartbreak. Yi Nanlian sniffled and said reluctantly, Chong Xiefeng, please don't marry Qin Yanji. You won't be happy. Ning Shu saw that Yi Nanlian was about to cry. He wanted to comfort her and give her hope, so he didn't say anything. Ning Shu thought that Yi Nanlian was a good person. People were willing to do things for the people they loved. This was a wonderful process. It would be even better if the other party could interact and reciprocate. However, Ning Shu didn't know how Chong Xiefeng felt about Yi Nanlian. He also didn't know if Chong Xiefeng saw Qin Yanji as his obsession and wanted her no matter what. It didn't matter if Qin Yanji didn't talk about it now. Even when she learned that her biological father had died, she hadn't been so depressed. Parents couldn't choose, but her boyfriend and husband could. For this choice, some people would abandon everything, such as family. Yi Nanlian left. She rode very slowly and kept looking back, hoping that person would appear. However, he didn't appear for a day. Yi Nanlian gave up. She raised the whip and the horse galloped. Qin Yanji stayed in her room like a block of wood. Ning Shu stood at the door and said, Junior sister. Before Ning Shu could finish, he heard a heart-wrenching voice from inside. Chong Xiefeng, leave. I don't want to see you again. Ning Shu smiled slightly and said directly, Junior sister, some of the brothers at Wanjian Villa have gone home. I don't think they'll come back. Also, I've closed the weapons shop at Wanjian Villa because of the troubles. Qin Yanji didn't know why Ning Shu was telling her this. I don't want to hear your voice. However, Ning Shu still had to say, I have to leave as well. I'm leaving the Myriad Swords Manor to wander the world. Junior sister, you have to take care of yourself. Although Master made me the Manor Lord of the Myriad Swords Manor, you are the true successor. In the future, you will have to bear the heavy burden of the Myriad Swords Manor. Qin Yanji was completely stunned. What did this mean? What did senior brother mean? He was leaving. This was outside of Qin Yanji's expectations. Qin Yanji thought that senior brother had to kill Situ Sun because of her, but she never thought that senior brother wouldn't care about her. After all, subconsciously, she still relied on senior brother. She also thought that senior brother wouldn't leave her no matter what happened, even if he hated her for killing Situ Sun. Even if he came to apologize, she wouldn't forgive him. Chapter 2005. Qin Yanji originally thought that Ning Shu had come to console her. Because of Situ Sun and her father's deaths, Qin Yanji felt completely disheartened. She didn't eat or drink and was in a daze. In her heart, she hated Ning Shu for killing her beloved senior brother. She held the thought that she would never forgive him in this lifetime. But now, her senior brother said that he was going to leave Wanjian Villa and wander around. It seemed like he was planning to leave Wanjian Villa. Qin Yanji's heart suddenly panicked. She had to face the empty Wanjian Villa alone. She couldn't do it if she had to worry about everything. Qin Yanji was stunned. Even if Ning Shu stood at the door and didn't open it, he could still see Qin Yanji's expression. She was unscrupulously demanding. Wasn't it difficult to have both hands? Now that one was dead and the other was leaving, she didn't have to be stuck between two men anymore. Ning Shu coughed and said, "Little junior sister, I'm leaving tomorrow. Since you're the successor of Wanjian Villa, you have to take responsibility. Don't let master down." The door creaked open. Qin Yanji, who had been in the room and refused to come out, saw the light. Oh my God! Ning Shu couldn't help but smile when he saw Qin Yanji, who looked like a ghost. Qin Yanji's hair was messy, and her face was as white as paper. Her eyes were hollow, and there were dark circles under her eyes. Her chin was like a snake. It was hard to tell that she was once a beauty on the Jianghu beauty rankings. No matter how beautiful she was, she couldn't withstand this kind of torture. Beauty was an uncertain number. It was high and low at times, so it wasn't easy to maintain one's beauty. However, it was rare to see Qin Yanji ruin herself like this. Ning Shu looked at Qin Yanji without a change in expression. "Junior sister, take care. Even if it's for Wanjian Villa and for master, you should pull yourself together." Qin Yanji turned her head to look at Ning Shu like a piece of wood. Her empty eyes stared straight at Ning Shu. When she saw Ning Shu's face, her eyes burst with hatred and resentment. "Senior brother, are you leaving?" Qin Yanji's tears seeped out of her eyes. Were they all leaving her? Her father had passed away, and Situ Sun had been killed by her eldest brother. Now, her eldest brother was about to leave. Qin Yanji's heart was filled with despair and hatred when she saw Ning Shu. It wasn't that she didn't want to avenge Situ Sun, but this was her eldest brother. Qin Yanji, who was feeling conflicted and lost, could only use this method to torture herself. Of course, it was also to torture Ning Shu. In the name of love, the people who hurt people the most were often the people they cared about. Because they cared, they felt inferior. If Chong Xiefeng was the one who entrusted the task, he would probably be at a loss right now. Ning Shu nodded. "Junior sister, I have to go. I promised master that I would save you. In order to prevent Situ Sun from pestering you, I killed him. I did it for your own good. How does it feel to be fed a pile of shit and forced to say that it's delicious? I did it for you, so blah blah blah." Qin Yanji's face twitched, and her eyes became hollow. Her hands balled into fists, and her nails dug into her palms. A chuckle came from Ning Shu's throat, but he didn't seem to notice Qin Yanji's expression. He said, "From now on, you're the head of Wanjian Villa. You can't be as stubborn as before. You have to be strong. Don't cry." Ning Shu saw Qin Yanji's eyes full of resentment. "Junior sister, with our relationship, it's not suitable for me to stay here. Take care of yourself. Show your strength. Don't let those servants bully you. Ning Shu acted as if he cared about Qin Yanji, then finally sighed. I know you're sad, but the person has passed away. You have my condolences. Qin Yanji, he killed Situ Sun, and now he was telling her about his condolences. Qin Yanji was so angry that she laughed. Senior brother, you're too cruel. Ning Shu's expression didn't change. He said calmly, I'm cruel, but this is the last thing I can do for master. Then should I thank you? Qin Yanji looked at Ning Shu. Her voice was a bit hoarse. She had been pretending to be herself recently, so her voice was no longer as clear as before. Ning Shu shook his head. No need to thank me. This is my way of repaying master's kindness. Master treated me like his own. I'm perfectly willing. Qin Yanji, get lost. Qin Yanji's anger overcame her confusion. When she heard that Ning Shu was leaving, Qin Yanji's heart was at a loss. She had no one to rely on. But when she heard senior brother's shameless words, they stabbed her heart again and again. Qin Yanji only wanted to tell Ning Shu to get lost. Ning Shu looked at the tightly shut door and only smiled slightly. He turned and left. Then Ning Shu left with nothing to do. It couldn't be better. When she encountered people who needed medical treatment during her travels, Ning Shu would treat them. Occasionally, she would collect a little money. Sometimes, the money was just a coarse flour pancake, and Ning Shu didn't mind. When they passed by the town, Ning Shu heard her fight with the devil cult to save Qin Yanji. After that, she was free and unfettered. The story was made into a story. The storyteller talked about it in the tea house with spittle flying everywhere. Ning Shu occasionally peeled peanuts and ate while listening to the storyteller's eloquent words. In short, after the artistic embellishment, the story became quite exaggerated. It was just short of saying that she had 3 heads and 6 arms. In the end, she saved Master's daughter and left Wanjian Villa. She was originally the heir of Wanjian Villa, but now she didn't leave for fame and money. People fought for fame and wealth because of money, but they also hoped to truly transcend it. Treating money like dirt had always been a noble sentiment. Ning Shu, forget it. Since when did she treat money like dirt? Why would she refuse money if it could make her life a little better? Some also said that Ning Shu was hurt by love and then resolutely ran away. How pitiful. In short, this kind of gossip spread like the wind blowing through everywhere. As for the gossip about Qin Yanji, they weren't so polite. They said that Qin Yanji locked herself in her room every day and didn't care about the situation of her home. Some servants even stole things from the house because the master didn't know what they were doing. There were also some chivalrous robbers who often visited Wanjian Villa to steal things, such as weapons, porcelain, money, calligraphy, and so on. However, Qin Yanji didn't respond after that. But Qin Yanji's room was stinking. Servants brought food every day. These servants at least knew that Qin Yanji was the master. As long as they didn't starve to death, it was best to stay in the room like this. It was practically heaven. These servants didn't care about eating meat or drinking wine. They had nothing to do all day and even began to gamble. The housekeeper saw this and became anxious. The originally prosperous Wanjian Villa had suddenly declined to this point. The housekeeper had asked Qin Yanji to come out and take charge more than once. Qin Yanji was the old villa master's daughter and also knew martial arts. She could intimidate these evil servants. Chapter 2006. Even the maids by the young lady's side were wearing expensive jewelry. The housekeeper couldn't sit still anymore. He knelt at the door and asked Qin Yanji to come out. If this continued, Wanjian Villa would be finished. Qin Yanji was still indifferent. Perhaps he felt that there was no meaning in living and was disheartened. Qin Yanji didn't take the housekeeper's pleas to heart. When Qin Yanji was hungry, food would be sent to him, so he didn't have to worry about the future and feel sad. When Ning Shu heard this news, he knew what was going on. This kind of result was more painful than killing the lover. Some people were above love. Nothing was more important than love. Ning Shu only chuckled as he ate peanuts. Yi Nanlian of Lingyun Villa knew that Ning Shu had actually left Wanjian Villa to wander the world. She immediately packed her things and prepared to find Ning Shu. Her heart had been scarred before. Her heart, which had been hurt by Chong Xiefeng's indifference, was now alive again. Chong Xiefeng had left Wanjian Villa, which meant that she still had a chance. She had to fight for it, no matter what. Of course, Yi Nanlian wouldn't blindly look for Ning Shu like this. She had the villa send the news. Every sect had a source of information. It was better to have a target than no target. Ning Shu's days were very simple. He wandered around and looked for the world's origin. She desperately needed the world's origin to get rid of her identity as a fugitive. If she encountered a judge and was shot, she would be fucking dead. Ning Shu wandered around but didn't find the world's origin. Moreover, he deliberately chose a more evil place. It was easier for the world's origin to appear in such places. Since it was a treasure, there must be a phenomenon. Ning Shu blindly turned around and made Yi Nanlian suffer. Ning Shu left and Yi Nanlian arrived, so they always missed each other. If it wasn't for the villa's information, Yi Nanlian would have missed Ning Shu. Therefore, when Yi Nanlian saw Ning Shu, she jumped off her horse and threw herself into Ning Shu's arms, knocking Ning Shu back a few steps. Ning Shu patted Yi Nanlian's back and asked, "Why are you here? Why did you leave Myriad Swords Manor?" Yi Nanlian came out of Ning Shu's embrace, wiped her tears, and asked, "Can you be at ease with 10,000 Swords Villa and Qin Yan?" Yi Nanlian regretted it as soon as she finished speaking. It wasn't easy for her to see him, so why did she have to bring up the troublesome matters of the 10,000 Swords Villa? She carefully looked at Ning Shu's expression. Yi Nanlian's expression amused Ning Shu. Ning Shu coughed and said, "I've already left the 10,000 Swords Villa. Saving Qin Yanji was the last thing my master asked of me." Yi Nanlian nodded. "That's true." Then she took out a kettle from her horse. "This is the wine that our Lingyun Villa brewed. Try it." Ning Shu took a sip. It was quite refreshing. "Not bad. Why are you looking for me?" "I want to roam the Jianghu with you," Qin Yanji said directly. Now that he saw hope again, it was simply too wonderful. "Your father isn't worried?" Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. "I knew Yi Nanlian wouldn't let it go." "No, my father said I can go back whenever I want," Yi Nanlian said nonchalantly. Her parents were not only obstacles, but her father was also very happy that Chong Xiefeng had left Myriad Swords Villa. Right now, Myriad Swords Villa was an empty shell. When the old villa master of Lingyun Villa heard about Myriad Swords Villa, he couldn't help but shake his head. He didn't know what Qin Song's daughter was doing all day. Myriad Swords Villa's foundation was about to be destroyed in her hands, and there were already many people who had begun to covet Myriad Swords Villa's weapons workshop. There were often Jianghu bandits who came to take advantage of them. At this time, almost all the disciples of Myriad Swords Villa had left. Even the eldest disciple had left. Those who had even the slightest bit of talent had all left. The remaining disciples who were just idling around were all useless. In the hands of Jianghu bandits, they were like chickens. The housekeeper had no choice. If these bandits were allowed to enter the villa, then it would really be a mess. There wouldn't be anything good left. Myriad Swords Villa would really cease to exist. The housekeeper knelt outside the door and asked Qin Yanji to come out and take charge of the situation. When Qin Yanji heard that bandits had entered her home, she felt a moment of panic. In the past, there were people in front of her, and she didn't need to worry about these things. Now that she was forced to accept and bear the responsibility, Qin Yanji's heart felt weak. After tidying up a bit, she went to the entrance of the mountain and saw a group of valiant bandits. Their eyes were filled with ruthlessness and greed. Qin Yanji's heart instantly trembled. She shouted, "Who are you people?" When they saw that Myriad Sword's villa really only had a little girl to take charge of the situation, they immediately whistled. They seemed incomparably frivolous and licentious. Pairs of eyes lingered on Qin Yanji's body. Their greedy gazes made Qin Yanji's heart burn with anger. She also couldn't help but feel afraid. Good girl Qin Yanji had never encountered such a situation. In the past, when Myriad Sword's villa was at its peak, these people never dared to provoke them. Now, Myriad Sword's villa was like a lion without claws. If they didn't take advantage of this situation, then they would have to be stupid. Some people were even discussing the beauty of Jianhu, and whether or not the boss should capture her and take her back to be his wife. There were also many servant girls who were captured and taken back to have a taste. These bandit leaders were fierce, and not a single one of their mouths was clean. It made Qin Yanji so angry that her body trembled. "I don't want much. Give me 50,000 taels of silver, and we'll leave," the bandit leader said with a smile. The fat on his face trembled, and it was obvious that he wasn't a good person. Qin Yanji pursed her lips and struggled to ask, "Is what you said true?" "Of course it's true." The bandit leader saw that he could get 50,000 taels of silver without spending a single soldier. It was simply awesome. "You have to keep your word. Uncle Zhang, give me 50,000 taels of silver in banknotes," Qin Yanji said to the housekeeper next to her. The housekeeper's face was pale. He said anxiously, "Miss, you can't do that. If you give it to them this time, they'll come back next time and treat us like hens that lay golden eggs. They'll come again and again." Moreover, the weapons shop was closed now. The housekeeper was so anxious that he was about to vomit blood. It wasn't like the young miss didn't know martial arts. What was wrong with intimidating them a little? The powerful disciples had all left, and the ones left were lazy people waiting to die. However, the young miss martial arts were not bad. If only Chong Xiefeng was here, he could go to the demon sect alone to rescue the young miss. It would be too easy to deal with this. When Chong Xiefeng wanted to leave, why didn't the young miss stop him? The housekeeper felt that he might have a brain hemorrhage if he stayed any longer. The young miss was at a disadvantage from the moment she opened her mouth to give money. Mississippi, the housekeeper had also served Myriad Sword's villa his entire life. At this moment, he felt very helpless. His mouth was bitter, and it was as if he had bitten through his gallbladder. Chapter 2007. The bandit leader saw Qin Yanji dilly-dallying and immediately shouted, "Miss Qin, we're in a hurry. Please hurry up. If we're impatient, we'll massacre Wanjian Villa." Qin Yanji shouted at the housekeeper, "Uncle Zhang." The housekeeper had no choice but to hand over the banknotes. He was disappointed and sad. These days would probably never end. If Miss Qin had obediently married Chong Xiefeng, this wouldn't have happened. Everyone felt that Qin Yanji had wronged Chong Xiefeng by leaving after breaking his heart. Chong Xiefeng had been extremely benevolent to Qin Yanji. She was captured by the demon sect, but she still went to save him. The housekeeper was very disappointed. Those bandits were just a bunch of rotten fish and shrimps. They could still fight. This time, they had compromised, but there would only be endless trouble. It seemed that they couldn't stay here any longer. Qin Yanji wanted to use 50,000 taels in exchange for the safety of the villa. Also, there were many servants in the villa who didn't know martial arts. Qin Yanji, who was sad in her room, didn't know how daring these servants were to use such a method to protect the evil slaves. The housekeeper's feelings were really, in the end, the housekeeper took out 50,000 taels. Some of the servants' eyes lit up when they saw the banknotes. This old thing hid so much money and gave it to the bandits. How great would it be if it fell into their hands? They could buy a few acres of land and marry a beautiful wife. No matter what, Qin Yanji seemed to have used a method to resolve this incident without shedding a drop of blood. The bandits laughed wildly and looked at Qin Yanji in various ways. Everyone was saying that Qin Yanji was a promiscuous woman. She was originally Chong Xiufeng's fiancée, but in the end, she got together with another man. If Miss Qin wants to recruit a man in bed, can I sign up? The bandit leader's smile was so fierce that the muscles on his face trembled. He looked at Qin Yanji lustfully without any scruples. Scram! Qin Yanji almost cried. She had never encountered such a thing. She had been told that she wanted to recruit a man in bed. The rumors on the streets were too ugly. Qin Yanji drew her sword and said hatefully, "You deserve to die." The bandit leader saw that Qin Yanji was angry and shouted, "Boys, let's go. Miss Qin, the leader of the demonic sect, is dead, and your fiancé has also left. If you feel lonely in your room, remember to call me." The bandit leader's voice was very arrogant. The veins on the back of Qin Yanji's hand bulged as she gripped the hilt of her sword. As soon as the bandit leader left, Qin Yanji's eyes immediately filled with tears. No one knew how scared she was. Qin Yanji couldn't figure out how someone could be so evil. Butler, hey, hey, hey. Especially when he saw the surrounding servants' sparkling eyes, the housekeeper couldn't help but sigh. The master loved his daughter dearly, and if nothing had happened to the 10,000 Swords Manor, the young miss would have been held in the palm of his hand, a beautiful flower that would have been incomparably happy. However, the weather was unpredictable, and the delicate flower might be ravaged by the storm. In any case, if this matter was handled properly, there would be endless trouble in the future. Bandits of all sizes would come to ask for money. The building collapsed. Sometimes, one incident could cause such a long chain of reactions. Perhaps this disaster had been buried a long time ago and had completely exploded with Qin Yanji. Qin Yanji stared blankly into the distance and cried. How was Situ-sun now? Where was he buried? Qin Yanji was afraid to see Situ-sun's grave. She would rather lie to herself that Situ-sun wasn't dead. The incident at the 10,000 Swords Manor had spread everywhere. When Ning Shu heard the news in the restaurant, the truth of the matter had already been exposed beyond recognition. Some said that Qin Yanji was so thirsty that she used money to keep bandits as her mistress. In short, Qin Yanji's reputation was really terrible. Ning Shu frowned. Qin Yanji's way of handling things was still so simple, crude, and useless. It seemed like she hadn't learned her lesson from the brothel incident. She had forgotten the pain after the scar healed. She was probably still thinking about that dead Situ-sun, but it was impossible for her to get over it in such a short time. After all, the person she loved the most had died. Was there no one else at the 10,000 Swords Manor to come up with such a stupid idea? 50,000 taels. Qin Yanji was really generous. The world was dangerous. What was the point of being so innocent? Yi Nanlian frowned and asked Ning Shu, who was sitting opposite her, "Do you want to go back and take a look? In the future, the 10,000 Swords Manor will be a place for bandits to rob until they can't take anything from the 10,000 Swords Manor." Yi Nanlian was very conflicted when she said this. She was afraid that she would have no chance if she went back. However, the 10,000 Swords Manor was the place where Chong Xiufeng grew up. Now that something had happened, Chong Xiufeng would definitely be anxious. If it had been the Lingyun villa, she would have flown back long ago. Yi Nanlian put herself in Ning Shu's shoes and still told him. Ning Shu took a sip of tea, thought about it, and nodded. "I do want to go back and take a look." Yi Nanlian's face turned bitter. She looked like a little cabbage in the field. Ning Shu couldn't help but want to laugh. It really wasn't easy for Yi Nanlian to say something like that. Ning Shu only smiled and drank his tea. He traveled with Yin Nanlian the whole way. This girl was really capable. She could find things to eat, wild fruits, and game. She even brought seasoning with her. This made Ning Shu eat very little dry food along the way. He could even eat a little meat. Cute girls were meant to be doted on. Ning Shu was laughing in his heart, but on the surface, he was a gentleman to Yin Nanlian. He didn't do anything out of line. They talked and laughed along the way, as if they were on an outing. However, what made Ning Shu more depressed was that he still hadn't found the world's origin. The two of them rode slowly towards the 10,000 Swords Manor. During this time, another group of bandits came to the 10,000 Swords Manor to ask for money. They obviously treated the 10,000 Swords Manor as a silver nest. When Ning Shu returned to the 10,000 Swords Manor, a group of bandits came out of nowhere aggressively. In the world of martial arts, the imperial court was weakened. These bandits swaggered out like this, but no one suppressed them. It really didn't make sense. Ning Shu frowned as she looked at some of the bandits. They were dressed in tattered clothes and held hoes and sickles in their hands. It was obvious that they didn't know martial arts. Qin Yanji couldn't even take care of these people. His martial arts had been fed to the dogs. Ning Shu and Yin Nanlian appeared in a very flashy way. When the bandit leader saw the handsome Ning Shu and the valiant Yin Nanlian, his heart immediately tightened. Didn't they say that there was no one left in the 10,000 Swords Manor? The bandit leader was certain that there was no one in the 10,000 Swords Manor with balls. Now, he had to squeeze as much as he could. Otherwise, others would take advantage of him. He heard that the 10,000 Swords Manor still had an eldest disciple, but he hadn't appeared in a long time. The other disciples also hadn't appeared. It was because the 10,000 Swords Manor's reputation was so bad that the other disciples were too embarrassed to return. Eldest senior brother. When Qin Yanji saw Ning Shu, her eyes immediately turned red. Her heart was filled with grievances. Chapter 2008. During this time, Qin Yanji had been on tenterhooks, afraid that these bandits would come again. Every time they came, it was like they were going to slaughter Wanjian Villa. Qin Yanji's heart was pounding. Her thin face now had high cheekbones, making her look much older. Without collagen filling her face, she looked thin and a bit scared. If she wore tattered clothes, Qin Yanji would look like a refugee. Now that she saw Ning Shu, Qin Yanji couldn't control her tears at all. The tears fell like she had found someone to rely on. Yin Nanlian couldn't help but purse her lips when she saw Qin Yanji like this. Ning Shu said, "Let's take care of these bandits first." Yin Nanlian pulled out the soft whip at her waist and took the lead to swing it at the bandits. "Who are you, sir?" The bandit held a large knife and looked very fierce. "If you can stay out of this, I'll give you half of the money." Ning Shu cracked the corners of her mouth and said, "I am Chongxiafeng." Her reputation as a hero of the forest and the fact that she had charged into the demon sect alone and killed the leader of the demon sect should be well known in the Jianghu. The bandit leader's face twitched. Although he had already guessed it, the bandit leader still had a bad feeling when Lin Fan said it out loud. Lin Fan was able to kill the demon sect leader, who was unparalleled in martial arts. Killing him was just a piece of cake. Ning Shu slashed at the bandit leader, and the sword aura directly cut through the bandit leader's throat. There was a small red mark on his neck, but then blood spurted out from the hair-sized cut. The bandit leader clutched his neck in horror and fell off the horse's back. Seeing that their leader was dead, the rest of the bandits fled like birds and beasts. Ning Shu was too lazy to chase after them. During his travels, Ning Shu saw that the villages that had been plundered by the bandits were full of devastation. It was just like when the Japanese had entered the village. They burned, killed, and plundered. It was slightly better to meet beautiful women. When Qin Yanji saw that the bandit leader was dead, she was extremely happy. She looked at Ning Shu with a complicated expression, and then saw the valiant Yi Nanlian. She felt an indescribable sense of loss and jealousy. Chong Xiefeng was her fiancé, but he left. Was he with Yi Nanlian now? Qin Yanji couldn't forgive Ning Shu for killing Sita Xiu, but now that Chong Xiefeng had appeared to help her out, Qin Yanji's heart ached. Yi Nanlian put away her soft whip and felt uncomfortable. She stood to the side and looked at Ning Shu and Qin Yanji. Ning Shu looked at Qin Yanji again. Oh my god, the speed at which her looks dropped was like a free fall. Ning Shu asked, why aren't you doing anything? Your kung fu has been destroyed. Qin Yanji's feelings were complicated. She didn't know if she should be grateful to Ning Shu or hate him. No, Qin Yanji said. I want to solve the problem without killing. Ning Shu thought, ha, ha. Trying to reason with a bandit? Was he sick in the head? Oh, is that so? Junior sister is so kind. Ning Shu said dryly. Qin Yanji felt that Ning Shu was mocking her and felt a bit uncomfortable. The gratitude in her heart dissipated a bit. Since junior sister can take care of things in the villa, then I'm relieved. I'm leaving. Ning Shu turned to leave. Qin Yanji froze and quickly said, wait a minute. The smile on Yi Nanlian's face suddenly stiffened. Yi Nanlian's heart was jumping with joy when Ning Shu said she was going to leave. However, Qin Yanji stopped her, so Yi Nanlian wasn't sure if Ning Shu would still leave. Ning Shu turned to look at Qin Yanji and asked, Junior sister, is there anything else? Qin Yanji choked. She really wanted to return the words to Ning Shu. Was there nothing else he wanted to do? Qin Yanji thought that Ning Shu came back to help her in order to gain her forgiveness, but now he was leaving. Qin Yanji suddenly felt uncomfortable. Why did it always exceed her expectations? Why didn't he follow the rules? Qin Yanji thought about it and said, you are the successor of the villa recognized by father. Senior brother, you should come back. When Qin Yanji said this, her heart was pained. She had to admit defeat to the person who killed Situ Sun, but only her senior brother could protect the Wanjian villa and intimidate the villains. Ning Shu saw that Qin Yanji's face was full of conflict and melancholy. It made her seriously ugly face look a bit strange. It was indescribably ugly. If it was before, Qin Yanji could be a melancholy beauty, but now, Yi Nanlian kept winking at Ning Shu, telling her not to stay. This 10,000 swords manor was a mess, and most of its wealth had been squandered away. It was a huge hole that could not be filled, and it was a thankless task. And looking at Qin Yanji's eyes, he was afraid that she still hated Chong Xiefeng. Yi Nanlian really hated Qin Yanji more and more. Not only did she hate her as a love rival, but she also wanted to please her because she didn't use her brain. It was really annoying. She made Chong Xiefeng a laughing stock, and now she wanted Chong Xiefeng to accept this mess. Not only that, but she also had to face Qin Yanji's resentful eyes every day. Yi Nanlian was very confused. All men seemed to like Qin Yanji. Yi Nanlian felt that this trip was very interesting. She cured people and helped when she could. She saw the scenery everywhere, and Chong Xiefeng even took her to eat delicious food. Wasn't this kind of life good? She still had to be tied up here and work hard. Ning Shu grinned. This time, she didn't come back purely to help Qin Yanji. She came back for herself. Ning Shu smiled slightly. His face was like jade, his eyebrows were straight, and his eyes were bright. His smile was very handsome. He said slowly, you are the heir to the Wanjian villa. You are master's daughter. Next time, show some courage and don't let others bully you. I'm leaving. Qin Yanji was a bit dazzled by Ning Shu's smile. When she heard that Ning Shu wasn't going to stay, her face instantly paled. She took a deep breath, bit her lip, and said, "Senior brother, I forgive you. Please stay and look after the Wanjian villa." Ning Shu suddenly felt that he might have a sadistic relationship with Qin Yanji. "Although I forgive you, I die with Situ Sun's death." Well, in the end, she used 120% of her sincerity to move Qin Yanji, and then they lived happily together. Ning Shu's body trembled, and goosebumps appeared all over her body. She really couldn't control her imagination anymore. Ning Shu even thought about her having a child with Qin Yanji. Ning Shu smiled slightly and said, "Junior sister, I believe in you. You will definitely bring glory to the Wanjian villa. You won't disappoint master in the afterlife. We're leaving." Ning Shu said to Yi Nanlian. Yi Nanlian's face immediately bloomed into a big smile, and she looked very happy. "Congratulations to you, man, for becoming the $1 million leader of this book. She has tipped a total of 10,000 yuan. Thank you to the little cutie who has been subscribing and tipping, as well as the little cuties who manage the chat group and the book review section." Chapter 2009. Falling in Love with You, Transmigrating Canon Fodder. Female supporting character counterattack. At first, Yi Nanlian thought that Chong Xiefeng wouldn't leave. When he saw Qin Yanji, he would become the fiancé who was crazy about her, and banged his head against the wall because of her. Hearing Ning Shu tell her to leave, a big smile appeared on her face. "Senior." Qin Yanji's sharp voice stopped Ning Shu, but Ning Shu ignored her and continued to walk away. "Senior, Senior," Qin Yanji screamed at Ning Shu heartbreakingly. She couldn't believe that Ning Shu had become so cold. Especially when she saw the woman standing next to her eldest senior, Qin Yanji's heart ached even more. She was extremely disappointed. She was so sure of her victory that she should feel that what was hers no longer belonged to her one day and belonged to someone else. This feeling was very depressing, and the difference between the two was unbearable. She even began to doubt whether everything she had insisted on was right. Countless what-ifs would be entangled in her heart, and that kind of regret and discomfort could torture a person to death. Now that Qin Yanji saw that her former fiancé was with another woman, she felt as if something had been stolen from her. Qin Yanji was used to Chong Xiefeng's kindness and overestimated her position in other people's hearts. "Senior, you can't leave like this." Qin Yanji used her qinggong and blocked the two of them. Ning Shu's lips twitched as he looked at Qin Yanji. "What is it?" Qin Yanji faced Ning Shu's indifferent expression, and her heart suddenly stopped. That indescribable feeling of grievance and betrayal surged up. "I'm sorry, Senior. I know I've wronged you, but can you stay and look after Wanjian Villa? When father was alive, he said that you would inherit Wanjian Villa after he passed away. I've already left Wanjian Villa, and I don't know what identity I'll be returning with. Also, I've already done what master asked me to do when he was alive, and saved you from the demon cult. My mission has been accomplished." Ning Shu said indifferently. Qin Yanji was furious when she heard that. She had asked Chong Xiefeng to save Gun Yanji, not kill her. She had actually killed Situ Sun. Actually, Chong Xiefeng was using her power to avenge a personal grudge. If father hadn't said that he was going to save her, Situ Sun wouldn't be dead now. Qin Yanji's heart was filled with sorrow. Now that things had developed to this point, she didn't know who to blame. "What do I have to do for you to stay?" Qin Yanji asked Ning Shu in a hoarse voice. Her heart felt like it was being burned in a pot of oil. She felt uncomfortable and conflicted. Moreover, this was clearly eldest brother's fault. Now she was begging him. It was infuriating. Ning Shu dragged his tone, looking like he was thinking, which made the two women nervous. Qin Yanji hoped that Ning Shu would stay, and Yi Nanlian hoped that Ning Shu would not be soft-hearted. The 10,000 Swords Villa was really a pit of fire. Qin Yanji clasped her hands together and bit her lip. She took a deep breath as if she had made a major life decision. Senior brother, I'll marry you. Let's get married. Ning Shu was speechless. Nanlian's expression suddenly became a bit stiff and also a bit disheartened. It wasn't that she didn't trust Chong Xiefeng, but Chong Xiefeng loved Qin Yanji very much. If there was an opportunity like this, he would definitely stay. Nanlian secretly sighed. It was really tiring to be entangled with someone who didn't care about her. Was Chong Xiefeng not tired from before? Ning Shu saw Qin Yanji's aggrieved expression and chuckled in his heart. Was marrying someone so aggrieved? She really thought too highly of herself. She had to stay behind and worry about the mess. She also had to face her cold face every day as if someone else was taking advantage of her. It was really fucking disgusting. She thought too highly of herself and overestimated her position in other people's hearts. Ning Shu smiled faintly and said, I know it's not that little sister doesn't love me. You can't force a melon to be sweet, so I won't marry little sister. Let's forget about our previous engagement. Qin Yanji froze, and her face instantly turned pale. She didn't recover for a long time and asked with trembling lips, You don't want to stay? I don't want to. You still have to worry about Wanjian Villa's matters. Be firm when you need to be. If bandits come again, don't hesitate to kill them. It's considered getting rid of evil for the people. Ning Shu said, Didn't little sister love to stand up for injustice in the past? Just think of it as standing up for injustice, that's all. Qin Yanji's lips trembled, and her face was ashen. She looked at Ning Shu as if she was looking at a heartless man. Nanlian silently cracked a bright smile without any hesitation. Fortunately, Chong Xiefeng's mind was clear. Ning Shu stared straight into Qin Yanji's eyes. His voice was ethereal and seemed to be able to hypnotize people. It's all your fault that this happened. If you hadn't stubbornly insisted on leaving Wanjian Villa, you wouldn't have met Situ Sun. If you hadn't met Situ Sun, I would have married you, and Master wouldn't have been angered to death. All of this is your fault, your fault. Qin Yanji's expression was a bit sluggish. It's my fault. Yes, it's your fault. You caused Master's death. You caused Situ Sun's death. You caused Wanjian Villa to become like this. Ning Shu's voice was very soft and ethereal, and it seemed to make people drown in it. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Qin Yanji began to cry, then immediately reacted. No, you killed Situ Sun. You killed him. I'm avenging Master. You're Master's father. You didn't avenge Master, and now you're blaming me for avenging Master. This is your fault. Ning Shu planned to try the hypnotism that he only had theoretical knowledge of. No matter how much Qin Yanji resisted, Ning Shu was telling the truth. Qin Yanji's expression was a bit pained. It's my fault. It's my fault. Seeing Qin Yanji's expression, Ning Shu didn't know if his hypnotism had any effect, but it didn't matter if it didn't. Qin Yanji was now all alone, anyway. It wasn't scary that she had no legs, no arms, and no life. What was scary was losing love. So little junior sister, don't let Master's expectations down. Manage Wanjian Villa well. I believe you can do it. Ning Shu planted the seed in Qin Yanji's heart that it was her fault. Connecting the dots, wasn't it her fault? If she had been more decisive and chosen one side, then this kind of thing wouldn't have happened. It was impossible for one woman to serve two men, so she had to create a threesome. Since she had chosen, then she should have been more decisive. Why did she have to act like she was being forced? Even if she had chosen Situ Sun for love, then she should have been prepared to abandon everything. But Qin Yanji didn't want to abandon everything. Little junior sister, I'm leaving. Ning Shu raised his voice slightly and woke Qin Yanji, who was in a bit of a daze. That's it for reading refreshing novels. Chapter 2010. Falling in Love with You, Transmigrating Canon Fodder Female Supporting Character Counterattack. Qin Yanji looked at Ning Shu with tears in her eyes. Senior, please stay. This is all my fault. Ning Shu smiled and said, "It's good that you know you were wrong." Ning Shu turned and left. Ning Shu and Qin Yanji left without looking back, which made Qin Yanji's entire body tremble. The hatred in his heart grew. He hated Ning Shu for killing Situ Sun and not caring about Wanjian Villa anymore. Qin Yanji felt that everything she had done for Chongxiafeng had been for nothing. She had chosen to leave with Situ Sun for Chongxiafeng, but what had she gotten in return? She even said it was her fault. Now she was no longer the young lady of Wanjian Villa at its peak. Chongxiafeng looked down on her and didn't even want to get married. Ning Shu could feel the burning gaze behind her. She could feel the resentment in Qin Yanji's eyes. It didn't matter. Even if Qin Yanji hated her, what could she do to her? Her biggest mistake was killing Situ Sun. So all the mistakes were her fault. Yi Nanlian breathed a sigh of relief and quickly caught up with Ning Shu. Are you really determined to leave? Qin Yanji is going to marry you. Isn't this what you've always wanted? Yi Nanlian asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu only said, "It's better to walk around than to walk around Wanjian Villa." Qin Yanji stared at her with resentment like a female ghost. Goosebumps rose all over her body. She was speechless. She didn't owe Qin Yanji anything. Yi Nanlian smiled at her and said, "Yes, we'll go explore the world. If it really doesn't work, we'll find a place to live in seclusion and live peacefully. If you're really bored, you can teach 1 or 2 disciples." The life Yi Nanlian described was very tempting, but she said, "We." Ning Shu only chuckled and didn't say anything. She really couldn't agree on Chongxiafeng's behalf. Yi Nanlian was not angry at Ning Shu's indifference. After all, leaving the 10,000 Swords Manor was not easy. After that, Ning Shu received intermittent news about 10,000 Swords Villa. 10,000 Swords Villa, which had been intimidated by Ning Shu, was quiet for a period of time. However, Qin Yanji discovered that there weren't many people in 10,000 Swords Villa. Some of the servants were afraid of death and had run away early on. Now, the 10,000 Swords Villa was almost empty. No one cleaned the courtyard, and there wasn't even any food. If Qin Yanji didn't say anything, there wouldn't even be a bite to eat. Although Qin Yanji was from the underworld and knew martial arts, she was usually served by others. Now that she suddenly had to do it herself, this feeling, Qin Yanji's life was similar to that of a rich young lady's, but now she even had to cook her own food. Her maid had run away. They had also taken away a lot of her things. By the time Qin Yanji found out, the maids had already disappeared. In the end, even the housekeeper left. The housekeeper originally thought that Chongxiafeng would stay, but she left too. It seemed that 10,000 Swords Villa was really done for. The housekeeper had no choice but to leave. Moreover, there were thieves coming to the villa from time to time, so their safety was not guaranteed. The housekeeper's departure made Qin Yanji's heart sink. She was angry and afraid. She tried to persuade the housekeeper to stay, but the housekeeper insisted on leaving. Qin Yanji felt very helpless. She didn't feel very good, and there was no one around to give her advice. She felt very anxious. In the end, Qin Yanji was almost the only person in 10,000 Swords Villa, which made Qin Yanji feel very miserable. She felt like she had been betrayed. She had spent so much money to protect these people in 10,000 Swords Villa. If they had resisted, those bandits would have definitely rushed into the villa and massacred them. These people who didn't know martial arts would definitely have been killed. However, these people actually ran away, which made Qin Yanji feel very pained. She felt this way again. The last time, for a woman, it was a woman from a brothel. She wanted justice for her, but she ended up in a brothel. Something like that happened and she was humiliated. Although nothing happened in the end, Qin Yanji felt very hurt. This time, for the sake of 10,000 Swords Villa, these people who didn't know martial arts, she spent a lot of money to protect 10,000 Swords Villa. But these people all left, which made Qin Yanji want to cry. These people were too heartless. If Ning Shu knew what Qin Yanji was thinking, the most he could say was that Qin Yanji liked to find excuses for herself no matter what she did. She was clearly afraid of those bandits, and she was a coward. She also knew that doing this was very cowardly, but she righteously said that it was for the sake of the people in the villa who didn't know martial arts. Now that others feared their lives and ran away, Qin Yanji began to resent them again. In any case, Qin Yanji was right no matter what she did, and it was others who wronged her. Qin Yanji was hungry and made food for herself, but Qin Yanji was not someone who had done manual labor. She had more or less reached out her hand for clothes and opened her mouth for food. Now, she had to make a fire to cook. She couldn't even cook the rice. Qin Yanji hugged her shoulders and curled into a ball to cry. Was this retribution? Was it like her senior brother said, that this was all her fault? After suffering, Qin Yanji thought of her previous life. She had a group of servants, and her senior brothers loved her very much. She had everything she wanted to eat. But now, she didn't even have anything to eat. There wasn't even a grain of rice in the kitchen. Even the bowls and chopsticks had been taken away by those people. These people were simply despicable. This feeling of being deceived made Qin Yanji very angry. They didn't understand her and even hit her when she was down. Qin Yanji felt completely disheartened. Without servants, Qin Yanji couldn't do anything. She couldn't even boil a mouthful of hot food to drink. In this era, there was no takeout, so one call would arrive. Also, it was already winter. Qin Yanji couldn't even wash her feet because there was no hot water. Thinking about her previous life and then thinking about her current life, even when she was tortured by Situ Sun in the demon sect, it wasn't as miserable as now. At least she had something to eat. But now, she had been in the demon sect for a while and hadn't even learned how to do anything before she was rescued by Chong Xiufeng. In fact, Qin Yanji was still a rich young lady who didn't know how to do anything. If only she was still in the demon sect right now. If only Situ Sun hadn't died. All of this was her fault. Otherwise, Situ Sun wouldn't have died. Her father wouldn't have died. Wanjian Villa wouldn't have become like this. Qin Yanji wanted to cry but had no tears. She really didn't know what she had done wrong. She had never wanted to hurt anyone. She had always sacrificed and wronged herself, but no one had ever understood her. Senior brother blamed her. It was clearly senior brother who had killed Situ Sun. Did senior brother understand that everything she did was for him? She wanted to protect him and was afraid he would be poisoned. Why would senior brother say that to her? Senior brother had the least right to say that to her. However, the words, "It's all your fault," kept echoing in Qin Yanji's ears. She couldn't deceive herself even if she wanted to. Ning Shu's reputation in the Jianhu was unexpectedly good. In addition, when something happened at Wanjian Villa, she went back to save people and intimidated some bandits. She was so magnanimous. When Ning Shu heard these words, she only chuckled. So much for reading refreshing novels. Chapter 2011. Falling in Love with You, Transmigrating Canon Fodder. Female supporting character. Counterattack. Ning Shu wasn't going for a good reputation, but to give Qin Yanji some hope. If anything happened again, Qin Yanji's heart would hope that eldest brother would appear and save her from trouble. She wouldn't believe that eldest brother would be so heartless. Ning Shu threw the matter of Wanjian Villa to the back of her mind and wanted to take her to see the area beyond the Great Wall. Yi Nanlian also insisted on going. Ning Shu had no choice. She wanted to ride the horse and leave, so Yi Nanlian followed. Ning Shu could only allow Yi Nanlian to follow her. Yi Nanlian revealed a complacent expression. She chuckled and grinned at Ning Shu. Ning Shu was speechless. If you want to follow me, then follow me. I'm not confessing to you anyway. The matter between Yi Nanlian and Chong Xiufeng had nothing to do with her, but Ning Shu couldn't say what would happen between them in the future. From Ning Shu's perspective, Yi Nanlian didn't seem like a stupid person. She was a virtuous wife. It was good to have someone who understood things clearly. Someone like Qin Yanji, who was so pretentious, couldn't resist pretentiousness no matter how good she was. Didn't she see that Wanjian Villa was now a big sect in the Jianghu? It only existed in name now and would be completely gone in a while. It couldn't hold on for much longer. Many people said that Qin Yanji was stupid. How could she be so stupid when people asked for money? Also, those bandits only had a lot of people, but their martial arts were mediocre. What a spendthrift woman. Many people said it with bitter hatred. It was better to give it to them than to give it to those bandits. Feeding those bad people until they were fat, really. Ning Shu went to many places beyond the Great Wall, but didn't find the world's origin. It seemed that the world's origin couldn't be found in this world. Ning Shu was a little dispirited. Yi Nanlian didn't know what Ning Shu was thinking, but seeing that Ning Shu didn't look well, she asked, "What's wrong? Are you hungry?" Along the way, Yi Nanlian asked Ning Shu this question the most. She almost sang, "Are you hungry? I'll cook a bowl of noodles for you." Ning Shu wiped his face. "I'm not hungry." Yi Nanlian couldn't ask Ning Shu what was going on, so she could only follow behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu came back from beyond the Great Wall and became a purchasing agent. He bought the cheap furs from beyond the Great Wall and sold them for several times the profit. As soon as he returned, he heard that the Myriad Swords Manor had been plundered. There was nothing left, not even chairs or benches. There were only 4 walls, and even some wood and tiles were gone. They were taken away by the farmers around the 10,000 Swords Manor. There was no one left in the 10,000 Swords Manor. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and ordered a plate of peanuts from a man sitting at the next table. He asked, "Then there's no one left at Wanjian Villa? Where's Qin Yanji? I don't know where she went. Some say she was kidnapped, and some say she was killed. Anyway, I don't know where she went," Ning Shu said. Ning Shu thought about it and decided to go back to Wanjian Villa to take a look. The destruction of Wanjian Villa was within Ning Shu's expectations. After all, Qin Yanji was quite generous. Ning Shu was now worried about Qin Yanji's whereabouts. He wasn't worried about what happened to Qin Yanji, but he didn't know where Qin Yanji was now. Maybe she was playing around with someone else and had a deep relationship. Anyway, she was the main female lead, so there would be people who loved her wherever she went. There were even men of noble status who had seen all the harems in their 3,000 concubines. They only loved a little demon like her. Ning Shu returned to Wanjian Villa. It was as empty as a haunted house. In less than half a year, the previously thriving Wanjian Villa had become like this. It was really sad that it was easier to destroy than to build. It took a long time for Wanjian Villa to become like this, but it felt like it had become like this overnight. Ning Shu calculated that he had been in this world for more than half a year, almost a year. Maybe it was time to leave, but before he left, he had to find out where Qin Yanji was. It was hard to guarantee that Qin Yanji wouldn't take revenge on the person who entrusted her. After all, she had killed Situ Sun, and Situ Sun was Qin Yanji's lover. Ning Shu returned to Wanjian Villa and went to Qin Yanji's room. Qin Yanji's room was empty. It was probably because the bed was too big that a thief hadn't broken into the bed. Ning Shu looked around the room. There was already a thick layer of dust on the ground. Every time he used his spiritual power to scan the room, he found that there was incense ash near the window. Ning Shu walked over, picked it up with his hand, and smelled it. There was a smell of medicine. It was probably a knockout drug. This is a despicable thing. Nanlian's face turned a little red when she saw this kind of thing. I heard that there are flower thieves who will break the window and light the love incense. My father was afraid that I would be targeted by some flower thief, so he told me this. This was Qin Yanji's room. Could it be that Qin Yanji was targeted by a flower thief? Nanlian frowned tightly and looked at Ning Shu. She said, "My father said that this kind of love incense is very domineering and makes women unable to resist." Ning Shu was speechless. People were always researching in this area. These flower thieves were really. They only cared about ruining women, then pulled up their pants and ran away. They didn't care about what these women would do after that. This was an ancient era that was harsh on women. Even modern women who were raped were looked at strangely. Moreover, they used such a despicable method to ruin women. The medicinal properties of the love incense were domineering and would definitely hurt women's bodies. When encountering such a flower thief, they would directly chop off the chicken without any discussion. I'm afraid that Miss Qin. Nanlian didn't say it, but everyone knew what she had omitted. She was afraid that Qin Yanji might have been ruined by the flower thief. Ning Shu thought from the perspective of a man and the flower thief. An orphan girl. Qin Yanji was an orphan now. She had no one to support her. Although she had Chong Xiafeng, who knew when this senior would appear? The first thing a man would think of when looking at a woman was sex. He would definitely taint Qin Yanji. Next, he might kidnap Qin Yanji and defile her. If she was an ambitious man who hadn't slept with a girl before, then Qin Yanji might be sold. As for where she would be sold, there was basically no need to say. Ning Shu thought about it, so he began his daily visit to the brothel. Nanlian's face turned green. She quickly put on men's clothes and followed behind Ning Shu. Although she was obviously a woman, Nanlian had never thought of disguising herself as a man. If people saw that she was a woman, would the brothel keeper have the nerve to recommend beautiful girls to Chong Xiafeng? Yes, 2 girls visiting a brothel. Chong Xiafeng was a woman inside. This feeling was a bit strange. Ning Shu released his mental strength and scanned the entire brothel. Qin Yanji had just come to the brothel last time, so he didn't know what the situation was this time. No matter which result Ning Shu guessed, Qin Yanji's result wasn't very good. She must be in deep trouble now. Just read a refreshing novel. Chapter 2012. Falling in Love with You, Transmigrating Canon Fodder Female Supporting Character Counterattack. Whether Qin Yanji was imprisoned by a rapist or sold to a brothel, Qin Yanji's fate was to be ruined by a man. The only difference was that it was one man or many men. Ning Shu looked for Qin Yanji from brothel to brothel. If she was in a brothel, it would be difficult for Ning Shu to find her. However, if she was locked up by a rapist, it would be difficult to find her. Nanlian felt that the chances of finding Qin Yanji in a brothel were not high. It was also possible that the rapist had ruined Qin Yanji and left after putting on his pants, and Qin Yanji had left Wanjian Villa by herself. However, Ning Shu felt that the possibility of this was relatively small. Rapists were all sneaky, but if Qin Yanji was alone, and a woman without any ability to resist, wouldn't the rapist have the final say? Under such circumstances, how could the rapist not have any ulterior motives? It was easy to find her in a brothel, but it would be difficult to find her if she was locked up by a rapist. Ning Shu felt that he was really worried about Qin Yanji. If he didn't suffer now, he would definitely suffer in the future. The human heart was the most chaotic and could change at most. Perhaps a small matter could cause a huge change in the human heart. Don't mistake naivety for fun. The world was so messy, who was naivety for? Nanlian followed Ning Shu to brothels every day. In the beginning, she was very uncomfortable, but now she was very used to it. She sat in every brothel like a boss and asked the brothel owner if there were any new girls in the brothel. Ning Shu and Yi Nanlian searched for a while but couldn't find Qin Yinji. Ning Shu couldn't help but wonder if he had guessed wrong. Perhaps Qin Yinji had left by herself. The rapist would only sell Qin Yinji to a place closer to Wanjian Villa. Did he have to carry her far away to sell a woman? After ruining a woman and making a small fortune at the same time, he would definitely get rid of her quickly. Qin Yinji wasn't in a brothel. Perhaps people were simple. The rapist only tainted Qin Yinji. Ning Shu. We've been searching for so long. Can we really find Miss Qin? Yi Nanlian couldn't help asking, why are you always watching brothels? Because Qin Yinji has an unbreakable bond with the brothel. Ning Shu casually said. Last time, he was also in a brothel. This time, he didn't know if he was sold to a brothel. Ning Shu smacked his head. Perhaps his relationship with the flower thief had deepened, or perhaps the domineering flower thief was addicted to the taste. The previous women were nothing compared to a fart. Only this woman tasted the best. This was completely in line with the plot. Ning Shu started imagining things again. Once he started imagining things, he couldn't control it. Ning Shu went to all the brothels closest to the 10,000 Swords Villa, but he couldn't find Qin Yinji. It seemed that Qin Yinji really didn't go to the brothels, which meant that he hadn't been sold. Perhaps she had fallen in love with a domineering flower thief. Perhaps this flower thief was incomparably handsome. Perhaps this flower thief had become a flower thief for the sake of excitement. Actually, his status was noble. The main female lead's ability was to make any man fall in love with her. Seeing the strange look in Ning Shu's eyes, Yi Nanlian couldn't help but ask, are you hungry again? I'm not hungry, Ning Shu said. It seemed that Qin Yinji's whereabouts were really difficult to find. Ning Shu was a little distressed. He would look for him slowly. Even if he couldn't find him, what could he do? If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have gone beyond the Great Wall. His main purpose was to find the world's origin. Ning Shu wasn't in a hurry. He would look for him slowly. As long as Qin Yinji wasn't dead, he would appear. After all, the client and Qin Yinji could have an unbreakable fate. In any case, he was the second male lead. Whether it was hate or love, he would always appear. In his free time, Ning Shu cultivated diligently. There was nothing more important than strength. Ning Shu and Yi Nanlian found an inn to stay in. After all, in this world, Ning Shu's family had no house, so they could only stay in inns. Wherever Ning Shu went, Yi Nanlian would go. She followed Ning Shu all the time. Ning Shu was really speechless. Such a cute girl. How nice would it be if she was a man? Compared to men, Ning Shu found that cute girls were even cuter. Apart from girls who were blinded by love and whose minds were filled with sadness, girls who found independent and strong girls to be really charming. They had their own personalities. Ning Shu couldn't stand a woman who would die for a man. She always longed for someone to pamper her. Since she chose to be pampered, she had to be aware of being a pet. Damn, was she going to turn gay? She shouldn't. Ning Shu said Amitba in his heart. She should abandon the distinction of gender now. Men and women were all people. Even if they died, they were still souls. So loving girls was the same as loving men. Damn, what was she thinking? Chong Xiefeng was really lucky to have a girl like this like him. Ning Shu finally found Qin Yinji, but the place he found was still a brothel. He asked the brothel keeper if there were any new girls. In the end, the brothel keeper said there were, but she wasn't very obedient. Ning Shu said he wanted to see her, so the coquettishly dressed Qin Yinji was dragged in. Qin Yinji's face was thin. It was unknown what kind of torture she had suffered, but there was no color in her eyes. Their eyes met, and Qin Yanji saw Ning Shu. Tears immediately flowed out of her eyes. She called out hoarsely, "Brother." Ning Shu raised his brows. It seemed that Qin Yanji really had an indissoluble fate with brothels. Ning Shu gave the brothel keeper some money, and she left with a smile. "Brother, brother, why are you only here now?" Qin Yanji cried to Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked, "Did the rapist sell you?" Qin Yanji's expression froze. She looked at Ning Shu in horror. "How did you know?" It was just as Ning Shu had guessed. Qin Yanji was tired of being tormented by Kai Huazi, so he turned around and sold Qin Yanji. How could the man of a rapist who used aphrodisiac incense have a conscience? Ning Shu asked, "Where is the rapist now?" He was going to cut up the rapist's cock. He picked a good woman and ruined a virgin. This kind of man deserved to be cut up. When Qin Yanji heard Ning Shu's words, she thought that Ning Shu was going to avenge her. She suddenly burst into tears. "Senior brother. Little junior sister, has your martial arts been crippled?" Qin Yanji had practiced martial arts since she was a child. Why did it feel like she didn't have any martial arts at all? Why was she always caught? Qin Yanji said painfully, "Brother, I was drugged with the cultivation dissipation powder. My martial arts are gone, and my dantian was destroyed." Ning Shu was speechless. "The rapist did it?" Ning Shu asked. Qin Yanji was completely disheartened. Her expression was gloomy, and it was obvious that she hated the rapist. Ning Shu hadn't expected this situation. The rapist had actually targeted Qin Yanji. He probably wanted to have a taste of a woman who was being fought over by a master of the Jianghu. Especially the woman of the leader of the demon sect. She also had another identity as the fiancée of the master, Chong Xiefeng. Just thinking about it made her excited and tremble. If she had known this would happen, she would have used the GPS and not appeared in front of Qin Yanji. She was out of her mind. So much for reading novels. Chapter 2013. Was he going to redeem Qin Yanji now? Haha. If he really did redeem her, then wouldn't it have something to do with Qin Yanji again? It really made people speechless. Ning Shu now had a feeling that she was relieved to see that he wasn't doing well. He wasn't really worried about how Qin Yanji was doing. Qin Yanji looked at Ning Shu, and Ning Shu stared at Qin Yanji. Neither of them spoke. Ning Shu raised his wine glass and took a sip, then asked the procuress, "I want to redeem this girl. How much silver do I need?" The procuress's face was full of wrinkles from smiling. She extended a hand, and Qin Yanji immediately asked, 5 taels of silver. The procuress's face trembled. 500 taels. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu guessed that Qin Yanji didn't even sell in 100 taels. Now she wanted 500 taels. What a businessman. Ning Shu said, "Sister, I don't have that much money. Wait until I earn that much money." Qin Yanji's expression was a bit sluggish. She didn't think that Ning Shu couldn't even take out 500 taels. How could he say he wanted to earn that much money? Qin Yanji wanted to cry but had no tears. She asked, "Brother, do you not want to redeem me?" After going through so much, what Qin Yanji wanted to do the most now was to leave this place. She was already traumatized by the brothel. Last time, she was taught a lesson by the procuress. This time, she still had to receive guests in a brothel. Qin Yanji still hadn't recovered from this shock. More importantly, her chastity had been taken by a disgusting rapist. Compared to the rapist, the current eldest brother was really good. In her mind, she kept thinking about the peace and quiet eldest brother had in Wanjian Villa. Those years were so peaceful. If only eldest brother hadn't killed Situ Sun. Qin Yanji was completely disheartened. Thinking about Situ Sun, who had been shot in the heart, Qin Yanji couldn't say anything about letting Ning Shu take her away. Her life was already like this. Qin Yanji said to Ning Shu, "Senior brother, go. Don't come back." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Sure enough, his hypnotism skills weren't perfect. Ning Shu couldn't understand what Qin Yanji was thinking. "Since you want me to leave, then I'll leave." Ning Shu paid the procuress and left. Qin Yanji stared at Ning Shu's back with teary eyes. Ning Shu couldn't bear to see this kind of person who pretended to be the one who wanted to save him even though he was clearly begging for help. His heart was already as dead as ash. It was the same no matter where he was. Who the hell wants to save you? Do you have so much money that it's eye-catching? Brothel keeper, are you kidding? Aren't you going to redeem him? The 500 taels were gone again. Qin Yanji, he left so decisively. Even if he didn't have money, he could still take her away. If it was the old senior brother, seeing her suffer like this, he would definitely be burning with rage and fight for her. She couldn't go back. Nothing could go back. Ning Shu returned to the inn and breathed a sigh of relief. Now that he had found Qin Yanji, if there were no accidents, Qin Yanji wouldn't be able to leave the brothel for the rest of her life unless someone was willing to redeem her. Moreover, Ning Shu really didn't know what the client was thinking and what he felt about Qin Yanji. If he redeemed Qin Yanji and kept her by his side, it would be like serving a princess. But if he didn't save her, would the client not give up on Qin Yanji? According to Ning Shu's thoughts, even if Qin Yanji was in a brothel, she could still write a touching love story. If you had love, you would have heaven. Ning Shu, fuck, I'm not redeeming him. This kind of thing should be left to the client to worry about. Now that Qin Yanji was in such a state, he could only rely on him. It would be easy to win Qin Yanji's heart. At worst, they would have to have a torturous relationship. You killed my lover, I hate you. In the end, they would have to kneel in front of Situ Sun's grave and say, "I'm sorry, I fell in love with the person who killed you, but I really love him. Please forgive me." Then the supporting male lead would become the male lead. It would be a sure thing. Ning Shu's expression was a bit ugly. He felt like he had swallowed a fly. If Chong Xiefeng and Qin Yanji were together, this kind of sick feeling would be indescribable. But this was Chong Xiefeng's choice. She had no right to question it. All the choice was in Chong Xiefeng's hands. Yi Nanlian couldn't help but sigh. Her life was filled with Qin Yanji's name. Sometimes Yi Nanlian couldn't understand what Chong Xiefeng was thinking. He had been looking for Qin Yanji everywhere, but now that he had found her, he was indifferent. Yi Nanlian was too lazy to talk. She got something to eat and cultivate her inner strength. If Chong Xiefeng really was together with Qin Yanji, then it would be time for her to quit. Yi Nanlian didn't want to be stuck between Qin Yanji and Chong Xiefeng. She especially didn't want to have anything to do with Qin Yanji. Once she was involved, she would be in big trouble, big trouble. Look at Situ Sun, look at Chong Xiefeng, and look at the Wanjian villa. The disciples had either left or died. In her father's words, Qin Yanji was poisonous. If Chong Xiefeng really didn't like her, she wouldn't insist on being entangled and bring any harm to the Lingyun villa. Didn't she see that Qin Yanji, who had no power to protect her, had been defiled by a womanizer? Now, she had been sold to a brothel. If no one redeemed her, she would have to spend the rest of her life with a pair of jade arms. Yi Nanlian couldn't let the person she truly cared about be hurt for a man who didn't love her. Maybe it was time for her to leave. But she had been to so many places with Chong Xiefeng and had seen so much. It wasn't a loss. Mission complete. Do you want to leave the mission world? 2333's voice sounded. Ning Shu immediately nodded. Yes. There wasn't much to gain in this world. It was very disappointing. Ning Shu wanted to complete the mission and at the same time find the origin of the world. But she couldn't find it. She wanted to build a world, but she didn't expect to succeed in building the reincarnation world first. Two things that she didn't know if were the origin of the world were still incubating. There was still one more thing that she hadn't found. Water, where was the origin of the world with the water element? At least she had gathered all of them and could avoid the fate of being erased. Ning Shu felt dizzy and returned to the system space. The space was filled with the fragrance of lotus flowers. The system space was full of vitality. Ning Shu collapsed on the sofa and sighed comfortably. There was nothing more comfortable than this. Then, Ning Shu sat cross-legged and began to absorb the soul power. After absorbing for a while, Ning Shu opened her eyes and felt that her soul seemed to be a little stronger. She felt that the entrusted person had contributed quite a lot of soul power this time. Was it because she was satisfied with the mission? She didn't care. She had soul power to take anyway. She didn't know what the entrusted person would do in the end. Would they redeem Qin Yanji from the brothel? If they did, then Qin Yanji would have to follow Chong Xiafeng for the rest of her life. After so many things had happened, how could Chong Xiafeng and Qin Yanji simply be engaged? Chapter 2014. Ning Shu was really curious about what Chong Xiafeng would do. Would he forgive everything and get back together like an engaged couple and get married? Or would he completely give up on Qin Yanji? Ning Shu opened the video and watched Chong Xiafeng's return. It was a brothel and Chong Xiafeng was talking to Qin Yanji. Ning Shu increased the volume and heard Chong Xiafeng's voice. "Junior sister. Didn't I tell you not to come?" Qin Yanji said stiffly. "Senior brother, we're not fated to be together anymore." Qin Yanji's words made Chong Xiafeng choke. His face turned red and his expression was very strange. Chong Xiafeng's face trembled. "Junior sister, I'm here to say goodbye. I'm leaving." Qin Yanji's expression changed immediately. In Qin Yanji's heart, Chong Xiafeng had wronged her. He was the one who killed the man she loved. No matter how much he did, he couldn't make up for it. But now he was leaving. Didn't Chong Xiafeng feel guilty? Qin Yanji vaguely understood that this man didn't love her anymore. She asked hoarsely, "Did you fall in love with Yin Nanlian?" "Yes, my pure body has been tainted and now I've been sold to a brothel. You must feel very embarrassed to have a fiancé like me." Chong Xiafeng was speechless. Was she blaming him? Why didn't she remember that she wanted to run away with Situ Sun twice in front of so many people? There were some things that only she could do. She was innocent. If someone else did it, then it was wrong and they had to endure her harsh criticism. Be lenient to yourself, but be strict to others. Chong Xiafeng felt very bored and said dryly, "That's my business. It has nothing to do with you. Qin Yanji, you only remember that I killed Situ Sun. You don't care about me at all." Chong Xiafeng looked at the skinny Qin Yanji. Qin Yanji's face didn't have any fat. Ever since she met Situ Sun, the collagen on her face began to fade. She no longer had that chubby and youthful look. Qin Yanji was almost crying. "Why did you kill him?" Chong Xiafeng heard this and almost died from anger. "Don't you know why I killed him? Was there a need to ask?" Qin Yanji, I stole his wife and humiliated him like that. Couldn't he kill him? Could it be that he still had to be worshipped? Chong Xiafeng looked at Qin Yanji with disappointment, but Qin Yanji said, "You know that both of you are very important to me. You know that I will be sad." "Oh, you will be sad, but do you think I won't be sad? What do you want me to do?" Chong Xiafeng's shoulders collapsed. If Qin Yanji was a man, he would treat two women like this. "Both of you are very important to me, and I'm connected to both of you. If a scumbag exploded on the spot, it would be the same." She didn't know why Qin Yanji could hurt others so righteously. Chong Xiafeng took a deep breath and turned to leave. He did not mention anything about redeeming Qin Yanji. As soon as Chong Xiefeng left, Qin Yanji slumped to the ground. Tears streamed down her face. Why couldn't senior brother understand her efforts? She never wanted to hurt anyone. The brothel keeper looked at Qin Yanji's tears and snot, and her eyes showed annoyance. She still thought she was a peerless beauty and made a fuss about not receiving customers. She had to accept them whether she wanted to or not. She had a bitter face every day. It was irritating to see her. Even the men who came to the brothel to seek pleasure had no interest in such a bitter face. She was probably some rich young lady. This man had come a few times and looked like he wanted to redeem this woman. But every time he came, she would either cry or pull a long face. She didn't know why she was so arrogant. She didn't know why she had such confidence. It made the brothel keeper's teeth ache. Angering the brothel keeper meant that Qin Yanji would have no food to eat. When she was starving, she would let go of her temper. People could do anything to survive. Qin Yanji didn't have any meat to begin with, and now she couldn't afford it. Ning Shu originally thought that Chong Xiefeng wouldn't redeem Qin Yanji, but Chong Xiefeng still redeemed Qin Yanji. From the previous asking price of 500 taels to 50 taels, the brothel keeper could tell that Chong Xiefeng didn't really want to redeem Qin Yanji, so 50 taels was considered a profit. Even if Qin Yanji was redeemed, she still didn't want to leave with Chong Xiefeng. Yi Nanlian saw Chong Xiefeng like this and sighed silently. She said goodbye to Chong Xiefeng. This man was destined to not belong to her. Even after spending time together, he still didn't like her. He had always loved Qin Yanji, and he would never leave her. Hearing that Yi Nanlian was leaving, Chong Xiefeng pursed his lips and nodded to let Yi Nanlian go. Yi Nanlian was speechless. She was still hot-headed. Yi Nanlian said to Chong Xiefeng, "I wish you happiness," and mounted the horse. Chong Xiefeng looked at Yi Nanlian's back in silence. Finally, he composed himself and took out some money to give to Qin Yanji. Live well on your own. This was the last thing he could do. He didn't want Qin Yanji to prostitute herself in a brothel. Qin Yanji took Chong Xiefeng's money and turned to leave. She really couldn't bear to live with Chong Xiefeng. Seeing Chong Xiefeng's face, the scene of him killing Situ Sun appeared in her mind. Chong Xiefeng also turned to leave, but in the opposite direction from Qin Yanji. The two of them walked further and further apart. Qin Yanji turned to look at Chong Xiefeng's back and suddenly cried. Senior brother had really changed. In the past, he would coax her, but now he was indifferent. Qin Yanji thought that Chong Xiefeng would force her to live with him, but Chong Xiefeng didn't even think about it. She didn't have martial arts anymore, and she didn't have a job to support herself. How was she going to live from now on? Qin Yanji stomped her feet as if she was angry. She quickened her pace and ran even faster. From beginning to end, Chong Xiefeng didn't look back. He also didn't think about going back to find Qin Yanji. Ning Shu turned off the video. It was a pity that Chong Xiefeng and Yi Nanlian didn't end up together. Ning Shu kept looking at the progress bar. In the end, Chong Xiefeng took in 2 disciples and taught them. He ran around every day and couldn't find a place to settle down. It seemed that Chong Xiefeng was quite satisfied and didn't want to be with anyone. He also didn't look for Yi Nanlian. Could it be that Chong Xiefeng still hadn't moved on from Qin Yanji's situation? The funniest thing was that Qin Yanji had Chong Xiefeng's money. After eating and drinking, she didn't have any income. In the end, she was kicked out of the inn and was about to end up on the streets. Chapter 2015. Qin Yanji didn't know where to go, nor did she know what to do. There was nowhere she could go in this world. Qin Yanji realized that brothels were the only place for her. She didn't know how to do anything, and she definitely wouldn't sell herself as a slave. But she had finally escaped from the devil's den, and now she couldn't go back in again. Qin Yanji was terrified, but Chong Xiafeng was nowhere to be found. In the end, she could only sell herself as a slave and enter a rich family to serve others. Qin Yanji used to be a rich young lady, but now she had to sell herself as a slave to serve others. She would be a slave for the rest of her life, and there was no chance for her to change her fate. Qin Yanji didn't know how things had developed to this point. She used to be a pampered young lady, but now she had nothing. She really had nothing. Ning Shu closed the video. Even if Qin Yanji was chosen by the master and became a concubine, she would be stuck in the harem for the rest of her life. Ning Shu didn't care about this anymore. He asked 2333, what if Qin Yanji doesn't want to accept this and wants to fight back? She won't accept this anymore. The karma is over. For example, Situ Sun and Qin Yanji won't have a chance to fight back. As long as the origin of the soul is still there will be a chance for a new start. 2333 explained. Ning Shu nodded to show he understood. He opened his status panel to see what he had gained this time. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 level, Super Mission Taker Points Plate, 177. 10 million points for a single point plate. Soul Points, 10 Health Points, 9 Intelligence, 12 Luck, 13 Charm, 7 Spiritual Power, 10 Martial Strength, 11 Aptitude, 9 Faith, 152880 Merit, 94750 Soul Strength, 573 Authorization Ticket, none Precept, Water Precept Pure Heart, none Items, Calm Halo, Reassurance Pill, Faith Halo, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet 2 Honorary Titles, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor Skills, 5th Ring Shooting Technique, Intermediate Fighting Technique, Intermediate Level Poison Technique, Beginner Level Business Management. Knowledge, Beginner Level Code Programming, Beginner Level Lawyer Skill, Sage Ghost Catching Skill, Beginner Level Cooking Skill, Intermediate Level Embroidery Skill, Trash Hypnosis. Aura, Mother of the World Empress Blessing, Model Worker Sister Chen Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura Grass Blessing, Lifelong Friend Miao Miao Miao's Blessing. Blessing from Zhu Sun Yang, Blessing from Chen Ermiai, Blessing from Chen Ning, Blessing from Jasmine, Blessing from Bai San Yang, Blessing from Wang Ying, Blessing from Wang Ying. The heart of bravery. The wish of Chong Xiafeng was fulfilled. Mission completion rate, 100%. Mission reward obtained, 11 point cards, 12 attribute points, 80% soul power, 5,000 faith power, 20 merit points, 20 merit points. 80% of his soul strength was not a small amount. This meant that the mission this time was not bad. Fortunately, he did not kill Qin Yanji directly. He was afraid that Chong Xiafeng still had some unquenchable feelings for Qin Yanji. As expected, Chong Xiafeng still wanted to see Qin Yanji. If he went back and saw a grave, he would not be satisfied. Some things would not give up until he got to the bottom of it. Ning Shu added 12 attribute points. This time, there were more attribute points. She actually had 12 attribute points. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 level, Super Mission Taker Point Card, 17,711 points. Set to 1 point card. Soul Points, 102 Health Points, 92 Wisdom, 121 Luck, 131 Charm, 71 Spiritual Power, 101 Combat Power, 111 Aptitude, 93 Faith Power, 152880500 Merit, 9475050 Soul Strength, 605 Authorization Ticket, none Precept, Water Precept Pure Heart, none Tools, Calming Halo, Calming Pill, Faith Halo, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet 2 Honorary Titles, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor Skills, 5th Ring Shooting Technique, Intermediate Fighting Technique, Intermediate Level Poison Technique, Beginner Level Business Management. Knowledge, Beginner Level Code Programming, Beginner Level Lawyer Skill, Sage Ghost Catching Skill, Beginner Level Cooking Skill, Intermediate Level Embroidery Skill, Trash Hypnosis Halo, Mother of the World Empress blessing, Model Worker Sister Chen Shi's blessing, Leader Halo Grass blessing, Lifelong Friend Meow Meow Meow's blessing. Savior Zhu Sun Yang's blessing, Founding Heroine Chen Ermiai's blessing, Beauty of the Law Chen Ning's blessing, Blood Clan Nemesis Jasmine's blessing, Transcending Race Communication by San Yang's blessing, Braveheart Wang Ying's blessing. Previously, he had more than 1,000,000 faith power. Now, he only had a little more than 100,000 left. Of the 500,000 merit points, he only had a few tens of thousands left. 2333 said, "You can go collect taxes now." It feels like it hasn't been that long since the last tax collection. Ning Shu was a bit surprised. This was too fast. It's been a long time. It's just that you're doing a mission. The time in the mission is different from the time in the law space, 2333 said. Oh yeah, I'm finally rich again. Ning Shu cheered in his heart. He went straight to Water City to collect taxes. First, he went to see Tian's auction house to see how much the auction house had collected and how much the auction house had deducted from his taxes. When he entered the auction house, Tian was already waiting for Ning Shu. When he saw Ning Shu, he cupped his hands and said, "The auction house's tax is 600,000 faith power. The casino's merit points are 250,000 merit points. That's a total of 850,000 merit points." Ning Shu's first reaction was that it was a lot of taxes. His second reaction was, "Damn, the auction house's people really took a lot of my money." Tian transferred the money to Ning Shu in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu was very satisfied. He asked Tian, "Does the auction house have world origins?" Tian shook his head. "No, what do you lack? If there is, I'll help you look out for it. If it doesn't conflict with mine, I'll leave it for you." Ning Shu immediately smiled and said, "Thank you. I need water world origins." Ning Shu knew from Tian's words that Tian was building a world. Of course, he would use what he needed first. If it didn't conflict with his, he might leave it for her. After all, Tian ran an auction house. He definitely had his channels. Tian thought for a moment. "I'll help you look out for it." Tian was still willing to do this favor. Moreover, it didn't matter who he sold the world origins to. If he sold it to her, she would owe him a favor. Ning Shu was very satisfied. He left the auction house and went to some shops to collect taxes. Tian had a good start. It couldn't be better. Ning Shu now felt the benefits of being the embodiment of the law of water. The resources and confidence that his strength had exchanged for. Chapter 2016. Ning Shu wandered around the entire Water City and got more than 200,000 faith power from Shu Bai's restaurant. Adding it all up, Ning Shu felt that he should have about 2 million faith power and more than 1 million merit points. Oh, Ning Shu laughed with his hands on his hips. Now that his wallet was full again, it couldn't be better. Although he spent money like water, he had resources. I'm smiling proudly, I'm smiling proudly. Ning Shu put his hands behind his back and walked towards the silver-haired man's consultation room. Ning Shu smirked. He didn't know what reason the silver-haired man would use to escape the tax this time. When he arrived at the consultation room, Ning Shu stepped over the threshold and saw two people sitting inside. One was a silver-haired man with waist-length silver hair, and the other was Tai Shu in a black trench coat. The proud expression on Ning Shu's face instantly stiffened. His body was petrified, and his hair stood on end. Even in his soul state, Ning Shu felt a chill pass from the soles of his feet to the back of his head. The feeling of extreme danger filled his brain. Tai Shu looked at Ning Shu indifferently and reached for his waist. "Run!" Ning Shu saw Tai Shu touch the gun on his waist. Without thinking, he appeared outside the Water City. She was, after all, the embodiment of the law of water. Out of the water city, Ning Shu said to 2333 in a sharp voice, "Return to the system space, return to the system space." Ning Shu felt dizzy. When he returned to the system space, he fell directly to the ground. He was clearly in a soul state, but Ning Shu didn't have the strength to get up. Scared to death, scared to death. Ning Shu suddenly wanted to cry. When would such a miserable life end? He had to hide from the judge every day. She was just there to collect taxes. How could Taishu be there? How could it be so coincidental that he was with the silver-haired man? Ning Shu suspected that the silver-haired man didn't want to pay his taxes, so he called the judge over. When she saw the judge now, it was like a mouse seeing a cat. If she didn't hide quickly, it would be over. Just for a little tax, the silver-haired man made such a big scene. Did these people look so free? They must have been discussing something important. She was really unlucky to have bumped into them. Ning Shu was annoyed that he couldn't settle the taxes perfectly every time. There were always unruly people who owed her taxes. Fuck, wait till she constructed the world's origin, let's see what these people can do to her. Ning Shu climbed onto the sofa and let out a long sigh. He felt stifled and scared. Just as she was about to collect taxes, the two of them secretly gathered together and did something shady. The silver-haired man was a Pishio that had no chrysanthemum. They tried every means to avoid paying taxes. Fuck, I'll deal with you sooner or later. Ning Shu couldn't calm down. He simply took out some agarwood and lit it. Then, he sat cross-legged on the sofa and silently recited the mind-clearing mantra to calm down his agitated mood. Sister was astonished. It was so scary. Right, didn't she have a black hole back then? She could hide in a black hole in an instant. Why didn't she think of that? Yes, he was too scared. The fragrance of the incense wafted out from the incense burner, making people feel happy. Ning Shu slightly recovered from her previous fear. It was equivalent to picking up another life. Fuck, she even encountered such a situation. It seemed like she had to be obedient and not run around in the future. But what about the silver-haired man's taxes? Ning Shu cursed in her heart. She always felt that the stingy silver-haired man would definitely do such a thing. What a profiteer. Ning Shu fidgeted with her hair in annoyance. She was originally happy today, but something like this happened. It made her unhappy. She definitely wouldn't let them be happy in the future. Ning Shu, who was frightened, decided to sleep. She didn't want to do missions for the time being. No amount of taxes could make up for her frightened heart. If this happened again, she would definitely explode. It was too fucking exciting. Under the influence of the incense, Ning Shu curled up on the sofa and began to sleep. However, her brows were furrowed and she didn't sleep very well. When Ning Shu opened her eyes, she could only sigh heavily. Fuck, she had to do something to relieve the fear and depression in her heart. Ning Shu pointed her finger and a black hole appeared in front of her. Ning Shu walked into the black hole. The black hole disappeared and Ning Shu disappeared. Ning Shu checked the world of reincarnation. This world was still dark and there was nothing. Only a 9-palace mountain stood in this world. Ning Shu walked into the 9-palace mountain. There were souls in the 9-palace mountain, but she didn't know if these souls could come out. Ning Shu reached out to touch the 9-palace mountain. As a result, a suction force directly sucked Ning Shu in. Ning Shu was dazed for a moment. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in a square. This space was more like a huge world. There was even a city. Some people walked past her. These people were all souls. Moreover, some of their souls were almost as strong as hers. So, these people were all souls in the 9-palace mountain. She heard that the 9-palace mountain was a cultivation world. An ancient divine sect used it to test their disciples. But this was more like a world. That was awesome. Many people revealed a shocked expression when they saw Ning Shu. They whispered, "The Nine Palace Mountain hasn't had a reincarnated soul for a long time. How did this person come in?" However, these people didn't rashly attack Ning Shu. "Is there anyone going to the Wind Canyon? Let's team up." A shout came from the square. "I'm not going to the Wind Canyon. The wind there is so painful. The wind blades can even cut through the soul. I want to go but I don't dare to. The spirit replenishing fruit in the Wind Canyon is too tempting. I really want to go to the second floor, but I can't do it." Another person said. Ning Shu blinked. Could it be that the Nine Palace Mountain had already formed its own ecosystem? These people that had been trapped in the Nine Palace Mountain had already formed their own social class. Moreover, Ning Shu saw that this world didn't only have souls. There were also people. People with bodies. Souls and people lived together. These people with bodies could definitely reproduce. There were many people in the Nine Palace Mountain. The entire Nine Palace Mountain was like a world. Ning Shu couldn't help but exclaim. It seemed like this Nine Palace Mountain wasn't simple. "Are you going to the Wind Canyon?" A person came to Ning Shu's side. "We'll split the spirit replenishing fruit equally." Ning Shu didn't really understand the use of the spirit replenishing fruit. He asked, "What is the effect of this spirit replenishing fruit?" This man was wearing a long robe. He gave off a very simple feeling. He should be a cultivator from the ancient times. You really don't know the effect of the spirit replenishing fruit. Even a 3-year-old child would know. The spirit replenishing fruit can strengthen the soul. However, it grows in the Wind Canyon filled with wind blades. The wind blades are very harmful to the soul. Therefore, the spirit replenishing fruit is very precious. Although the man was surprised that Ning Shu didn't know the effect of the spirit replenishing fruit, he still explained. Chapter 2017. Falling in Love with You, Transmigrating Canon Fodder Female Supporting Character Counterattack. It seemed like this spirit replenishing fruit was very precious. Ning Shu asked again, "Does eating this spirit replenishing fruit have any other effects other than strengthening the soul?" The man glanced at Ning Shu. He probably couldn't stand Ning Shu's clueless expression and said, "It has the effect of strengthening the soul. As long as the soul is strong enough, you can enter the second level. Only a strong soul can withstand the destruction of the spatial wind blades and enter the second level of the Nine Palace Mountain." Ning Shu nodded. "So that's how it is. The spirit replenishing fruit can strengthen the soul. It seems like the second level of the Nine Palace Mountain is more difficult to enter. Also, the Nine Palace Mountain seems to have 9 levels. Why do you want to go to the second level?" He finally caught someone and had to clarify things. The man's expression became even more speechless. He said, "The second level of the Nine Palace Mountain is bigger and there are more treasures." Nonsense. The Nine Palace Mountain gets smaller and smaller from the bottom to the top. Mountains are always bigger at the bottom and smaller at the top. Okay, the size seen by the naked eye isn't the real size. Even sand can become a world, let alone a mountain. The size of a mountain is based on the evolution of the world. Going to the second level is for more resources. It's just like passing the 9th level. Does it mean that you can leave after passing the 9th level? Are you a new trial disciple? The man Ning Shu asked. However, he then said, "Why are you in a soul state when you just entered? What sect are you from?" Ning Shu, "Big brother, the sects you mentioned have all been annihilated in the long river of history. When you leave, you will find that the outside world is dark and there's nothing. These people still think that you are in a trial. It seems like you can't leave without passing the level. Is the time in the Nine Palace Mountain different from the outside world? Even if you are in a soul state, you are still trapped here." Ning Shu, this 9-palace mountain is really mysterious. Ning Shu, I want to go home, I don't know when I can pass the 9th level. What if I can't leave? Ning Shu's man said, can you only leave after passing the 9th level? That's right. Ning Shu. Back then, the disciples who had the courage to enter the 9-palace mountain for training were all brave warriors. This training was like cutting off all means of retreat. Once you entered, you might not be able to leave for the rest of your life. But if you could leave, you would be invincible. By the time they got out, the world had already changed. In the cultivation world, these people could be considered ancient cultivators. If he went out now, he would find that the world had changed again. It had become a world without any signs of human habitation. I sympathize with these babies. Are you going to Wind Canyon or not? When the man saw that Ning Shu kept asking questions about whether to eat with his left or right hand, he became a little impatient. Let's go. Ning Shu said. It would be great if he could obtain the spirit-replenishing fruit. Ning Shu found that the things in the system store were pretty much all flashy things. Things that looked cool made people quite speechless. Things like the spirit-replenishing fruit were nowhere to be found. Ning Shu felt that there might be one, but he did not take it out to trade. The man sized up Ning Shu and noticed the water droplet between Ning Shu's eyebrows. He glanced at it and withdrew his gaze. Obviously, he did not recognize the law imprint. Follow me. Ning Shu said. Ning Shu followed behind him and entered a small group. This is a new member. Oh right, what's your name? Shu Ning. Ning Shu said. He was too lazy to think of a name, so he simply reversed his name. There were 8 people in the group. Including Ning Shu, there were 9 people. Each of them scanned Ning Shu with their eyes. Seeing that Ning Shu's soul was still tough, they did not say anything. The wind blades in Wind Canyon were very powerful. The spirit-replenishing fruit was not that easy to obtain. These people were wearing different sect uniforms. It seemed that there were quite a few sect disciples here. After finding everyone headed towards Wind Canyon. These people all took out their Dharma artifacts and stepped on them to head towards Wind Canyon. Ning Shu was speechless. You don't have a Mount Dharma artifact? Seeing Ning Shu in a daze, the man regretted letting Ning Shu join the group. It was very likely that he would be a burden. It's okay. I can fly. Ning Shu said with a grin. The man nodded. Ning Shu leaped up and flew towards the group. Fortunately, he could control his soul power. Ning Shu observed these people. These people should have failed the trial and died in 9-Palace Mountain. However, they could not come out. Since their souls could not leave 9-Palace Mountain, they could only continue cultivating in their soul state. However, the soul was not as easy to cultivate as the physical body. Therefore, they needed something like the spirit-replenishing fruit. 9-Palace Mountain was actually a world. However, because it was not connected to the world of reincarnation, the souls of those who died in 9-Palace Mountain could not leave. Humans and souls coexisted. Ning Shu's mind was filled with all kinds of thoughts as he followed the group to Wind Canyon. The scenery of Wind Canyon was very beautiful. There was a thin mist shrouding the canyon. However, the canyon was very quiet. There were no sounds of insects or birds. It was so quiet that it was a little scary. There was only the whistling of the wind. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. The sound was strange. Ning Shu followed behind the group and released his spiritual force to check the surroundings. However, what surprised Ning Shu was that his spiritual force seemed to be devoured by something. It was useless. You don't use your spiritual force here. Do you want to kill everyone? The man frowned. Ning Shu growled, it will trigger the wind blades in the canyon. Don't you even know this? Damn, this temper. If I had known, I wouldn't have come. I should have understood the situation first. Ning Shu walked at the back of the group, using his eyes to observe the situation around him. The wind whistled in the canyon, and Ning Shu didn't dare to be careless. Previously, he had heard people say that the wind blades could cut the soul in half. Along the way, everyone was very careful. Even the sound of their footsteps could not help but be light. It was as if there was something sleeping in the canyon and they were afraid of waking it up. It seemed very calm and there was no danger. However, as they went deeper into the canyon, everyone became more careful and more vigilant. Even the sound of their breathing was suppressed. It was as if there was a stone pressing down on his body. This kind of oppressive atmosphere made Ning Shu more and more vigilant. She did not know where the spirit-replenishing fruit grew. She could only follow the group closely. If she did not get the spirit-replenishing fruit, she would just take it as an experience. The fog in the canyon became thicker and thicker. Ning Shu saw that the others did not make a fuss about it. She suppressed the surprise in her heart. Poochie. There seemed to be the sound of cloth tearing. Endless wind blades broke out around them. These wind blades were extremely sharp and densely flew towards them. Ning Shu quickly avoided the wind blades. At this time, she must use her spiritual force to avoid the wind blades. Just read a novel. Chapter 2018. Falling in Love with You, Transmigrating Canon Fodder Female Supporting Character Counterattack. He didn't know where this wind blade came from. Although Ning Shu had the help of his spiritual force, the wind blade still cut off his arm. Hiss, it really hurts, as if his soul was being torn apart. Ning Shu used his spiritual force to condense his arm, but the spiritual force in his arm was gone. They hadn't found the spirit-replenishing fruit yet, but they had already lost so much. They felt like they couldn't make ends meet. Ning Shu's arm was cut off, but some people were cut off at the waist. They lost more than half of their spiritual force, and their souls immediately became thin. With such a big price to pay, they still had to find the spirit-replenishing fruit. It seemed that this spirit-replenishing fruit was really precious. Some people took out their artifacts to resist the damage of the wind blade. Braving the damage of the wind blade, everyone continued to move forward. With the help of his spiritual force, Ning Shu could know the location of these wind blades in advance, but because of the large number, it was inevitable that he would be injured. However, this couldn't stop the group from moving forward. They didn't even think about retreating. In the end, they didn't know how many wind blades they had suffered. Everyone saw a tree. This was a towering tree. Several people couldn't wrap their arms around the trunk. This tree was full of fruits. There were blue fruits and red fruits. The size of the fruits was the same as a date. Spirit-replenishing fruit. Everyone was very excited. They had finally arrived here. This was the spirit-replenishing fruit they were looking for. The spirit-replenishing fruit seemed to be very high-yielding. The fruit was heavy on the branches, and it had a fragrance. Ning Shu smelled this fragrance and almost drooled. Obviously, his soul was very coveting the spirit-replenishing fruit. Remember not to pick the blue spirit-replenishing fruit. The blue spirit-replenishing fruit is not ripe. It is highly toxic. Pick it ripe. A man, Ning Shu, said. Ning Shu nodded. Seeing that others had flown to the fruit tree, Ning Shu released his spiritual force and scanned around to see if there was any danger around. There were many spirit-replenishing fruits on the tree. The towering tree had luxuriant branches and leaves. There were many spirit-replenishing fruits. He was not afraid of these people picking them all. Seeing that there was no danger around, Ning Shu flew over to pick the spirit-replenishing fruit. Ning Shu picked the red one. The spirit-replenishing fruit in his hand felt cool and full of vitality. He didn't know what the replenishing spirit fruit tree had absorbed to be able to grow this kind of fruit. Ning Shu was picking fruits when he heard someone scream. Ning Shu hurriedly used his spiritual force to take a look. It turned out that the fruit tree had stretched out a transparent, soul-like tentacle and wrapped around the person. The souls of the people who were entangled began to dim. These transparent tentacles were actually absorbing souls. Then, the entire tree stretched out dense tentacles, trying to entangle everyone. Ning Shu's hand turned into a knife, and he directly cut off the tentacle that was reaching towards him. These tentacles looked transparent and fragile, but they were very tough. Ning Shu had to cut them twice before he could cut them off. Moreover, Ning Shu felt that these tentacles were actually soul power. A tree actually had so much soul power. Let's go. Ning Shu felt that it was impossible to pick the spirit-replenishing fruit. In the beginning, the spirit-replenishing fruit tree didn't move at all in order to lower people's vigilance. Coupled with so many spirit-replenishing fruits, people's greed had blinded their minds, and they wanted to pick more fruits. For the first time, Ning Shu distanced himself from the spirit-replenishing fruit tree. He felt that this tree already had wisdom. The spirit-replenishing fruit tree's tentacles stretched out very long. Even though Ning Shu and his group had escaped, the tentacles still chased after them. Ning Shu used his soul power to condense a large knife, and he chopped at the tentacles that were reaching over. The chopped tentacles dissipated, but many more tentacles came this way. Ning Shu ran at top speed. He couldn't be entangled by the tentacles. Otherwise, he would become the spirit-replenishing fruit tree's nourishment. Previously, Ning Shu was still wondering why there was no danger around the spirit-replenishing fruit. In the end, the spirit-replenishing fruit tree was the biggest danger. When he ran to the place where the wind blades were, countless wind blades flew towards them. The wind blades brushed past Ning Shu's face, and Ning Shu's face was almost cut in half. However, it healed in an instant. Fuck. It was just picking a fruit. Why was it so dangerous? He almost became the fruit tree's fertilizer. Ning Shu wasn't very afraid of being cut by the wind blades. However, Ning Shu was afraid of being entangled by the soul tentacles. Once entangled, there would be no way to escape. So far, 3 people had been entangled by the tentacles, and these tentacles directly absorbed their souls. Ning Shu felt that the spirit-replenishing fruit should be used by this tree to fish for prey. For example, people like them who hope to obtain the spirit-replenishing fruit would be treated as prey by the spirit-replenishing fruit. Everyone ran all the way and threw out all kinds of magic tools. They ran very far away, probably beyond the maximum range of the tentacles. Therefore, the tentacles didn't reach over anymore. Ning Shu and a few people ran out of the wind canyon. Everyone's souls had become thin. They went to pick some fruits. They didn't know if they could make up for the loss of their souls. Ning Shu sat on the ground and took out a red jujube-like thing. He now understood why the spirit-replenishing fruit could strengthen the soul. It was because the spirit-replenishing fruit tree had absorbed souls, and the fruits it bore contained soul power. Ning Shu felt it a little. Although it was pure soul power and there was also life energy, it really wasn't much. Fortunately, Ning Shu had picked a lot. After picking one, he put it away. Basically, not a single one fell out. It felt really great. It wasn't in vain for him to work so hard. When he went there were 8 people. Now, there were only 5 people left. Moreover, the souls that survived had become thin. The man who had asked Ning Shu to form a team walked over. Ning Shu asked, "How many did you pick?" Ning Shu took out 5 fruits and said, "I dropped the other fruits." The man in the team took 5 fruits from Ning Shu's hand. Then, Ning Shu found that the others took out 1 or 2 fruits. Ning Shu was speechless. She took out 5 fruits, and it was too much. Ning Shu didn't believe that these people only had 1 or 2 fruits. In the end, everyone divided equally. Ning Shu only got 2 fruits. Ning Shu was speechless. He had handed over 5 fruits, and now, he only got 2 back. Ning Shu was a little speechless. Forget it. The other 3 would be the reward for these people leading the way. Ning Shu ate the 2 fruits directly. He felt a comfortable aura and soul power enter his body. Ning Shu didn't dare to eat it before. He was afraid that the soul power inside wasn't too pure. However, it was very pure. Unfortunately, there wasn't much soul power. It was faster for her to get soul power from doing missions. However, it had another effect, which was to strengthen the soul. If an ordinary soul could be blown away by a gust of wind, eating this thing would turn it into a solidified state like tofu. Although it wasn't tough enough to break with a touch, it wouldn't be blown away by the wind. Just read a refreshing novel. Chapter 2019. Falling in Love with You, Transmigrating Canon Fodder. Female supporting character. Counterattack. Ning Shu ate the 2 fruits. He did not expect to gain much soul energy from the fruits. He just hoped that his soul would become stronger so that it would be easier for him to teleport between planes. The others saw that Ning Shu ate the 2 fruits in a few bites and asked in surprise, "You ate them?" Ning Shu asked in return, "Can't I eat them? Didn't they say that they could strengthen the soul?" She still wanted her soul to be invulnerable. The corners of their mouths twitched. They didn't say that you can't eat them. It's just that these things are very precious and can be exchanged for many things. Ning Shu nodded, "Is that so? I won't eat them next time." Everyone laughed. This was not a matter of eating or not, but eating 2 fruits in a few bites. Was he not going to leave one to exchange for other survival resources? Ning Shu was at a loss. Of course, he would not tell others that he still had more. One of the people's eyes flickered and asked, "Are you a spirit replenishing fruit?" Ning Shu shook his head, "No, I picked a lot before, but they all spilled. With so many tentacles, I almost couldn't come out alive." Everyone's expression was a little sad. There were 8 people who went, but only 5 came back. It was more or less enough to bring back 5. However, this person was really honest. He took out all the fruits he had and kept some for himself. Actually, there were people who wanted to be cannon fodder to give the others enough time to escape. They did not expect this woman to come back alive. Ning Shu could not help but sigh. She wanted to leave through 9 Palace Mountain. It seemed that she could not leave until she reached the 9th level of the trial. Oh my God! There were so many talented people who hadn't made it out yet. She didn't know when she would be able to make it out. Moreover, she still had to do missions and take care of Water City. She still had to collect taxes. Who knew how long she would stay in here? Ning Shu's heart was crumbling. Everyone returned to the city. The world of the first level of the 9 Palace Mountain was not small. It was about the size of a plane. There were many trial disciples. There were some disciples who couldn't leave after entering this place, so they decided to give birth to their children here. They might as well continue to reproduce in this space, not intending to leave. Furthermore, being able to live again after death meant that there were better things than this. As a result, there were many people on 9 Palace Mountain. Ning Shu returned to the square and stood at the place where she had appeared before. How was she going to go back? Ning Shu scratched his head. Could it be that she really couldn't get out? Get out, get out. Ning Shu tapped with his finger and a black hole appeared before him. Ning Shu walked into the black hole and Ning Shu disappeared. This black hole was basically Ning Shu. Fortunately, Ning Shu came out of it. In front of him was the towering 9 Palace Mountain. Perhaps he could visit the 9 Palace Mountain when he was free. There were 9 levels of the world. Ning Shu came out of the black hole and returned to the system space. He took out a bunch of red jujube-like fruits and sat on the sofa. As he munched on the fruits, he opened the chat system and asked Mei Ziqing, are you there? Mei Ziqing, no. Alright, I have something to ask of you. Can you go to the consultation room and see if the judge is still there? Ning Shu asked Mei Ziqing. Go and take a look. I'll give you something good to eat. Mei Ziqing, what good things do I need? Ning Shu took out 2 fruits. One for Mei Ziqing and the other for Xiaohua. He waited for Mei Ziqing's reply. After a while, Mei Ziqing replied, no. But this guy is too greedy. I just went in for a while and he took 5 of my points. That's tens of millions of points. Ning Shu knew that Mei Ziqing was talking about the silver-haired guy. This guy would take advantage of anyone he saw. It would be a waste if he didn't take advantage of him. He wondered how much tax this guy had collected. Probably no one would visit him if he was so greedy. But since he was so greedy, he should have collected a lot of taxes. Ning Shu was a little worried. Is he really not there? Look around. What if he's hiding somewhere? I'm talking about a possibility. Mei Ziqing. But fuck off. Is the judge so wretched that he would hide and wait for you? Alright, she was thinking too much. Ning Shu said, leave me at the door of the consultation room. Ning Shu was a little dizzy when he appeared at the door of the consultation room. When he saw the signboard, he wanted to smash it. He couldn't control himself at all. Mei Ziqing was waiting for Ning Shu at the door. When she saw Ning Shu, she asked, where's the thing you gave me? Here, don't say I didn't miss you. Ning Shu gave the fruits to Mei Ziqing and Xiaohua. Xiaohua smiled and thanked Ning Shu, revealing his little canine teeth. He looked very cute and sunny. I'll go to the restaurant. You can come find us later. We can't stay in this kind of shady shop. Mei Ziqing pulled Xiaohua and ran. She was afraid that they would be blackmailed if they stood on this street for a while. Ning Shu stood at the door of the consultation room, looking around. There didn't seem to be any judge, but Ning Shu still didn't dare to enter. Damn, she was such a coward. If the judge came out, she would run faster. Who knew what these 2 people were doing in the room? The silver-haired man closed the book in his hand and said to Ning Shu in a reserved and elegant manner, please come in. He was like an ancient aristocrat, but he was too greedy. Ning Shu sat on the doorstep and rested his face on his hand. I'll just sit here. Even if you sit on the doorstep, I'll still charge you. What do you want to know? The silver-haired man asked. Ning Shu laughed. I'm here to collect taxes. Please pay the taxes. The silver-haired man was silent for a moment. Ning Shu sneered in his heart. This time, I won't let you escape the taxes. Ning Shu felt that he had a hard life. Every time he had to pay taxes, he had to worry so much. Asking these people to pay taxes was like asking them to pay back money. The one who borrowed money was the boss. How's the construction of your world? The silver-haired man asked Ning Shu. Thank you for your concern. It's pretty good. Please pay the taxes, Ning Shu said expressionlessly. I'm fucking scared. Even though Ning Shu was talking to the silver-haired man, his body was tense and he looked around. What if the judge appeared again? Ning Shu felt that the silver-haired man and the judge were good friends for life. He had already seen the Tai Shu appear here twice. I told you last time, right? Every constructed world has to have a reincarnation cycle. Every constructed world has to have a reincarnation cycle, the silver-haired man said calmly. Ning Shu, I'm not listening, I'm not listening. Please collect the taxes, the silver-haired man said. Why was it so difficult to get the silver-haired man to pay? Was he so poor that he couldn't eat? Did he have to be like this? Moreover, the silver-haired man was someone who had constructed a world. He shouldn't be so poor. Just read a novel. Chapter 2020. Falling in love with you, transmigrating canon fodder female supporting character counterattack, but the silver-haired man refused to give him any taxes. He just kept deducting. Ning Shu just wanted to take the money and run away. Every second he stayed here was another second of torture. Ning Shu was really afraid that the judge would suddenly jump out and kill him. Damn it, couldn't he be more considerate of his anxiety? Ning Shu really wanted to strangle the silver-haired man and strangle this bastard to death. Give me the money, give me the money, give me the money, Ning Shu said directly. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm here to ask for money. Ever since he became shameless, he felt much more relaxed. The silver-haired man looked at Ning Shu. Don't be impatient. Of course I'm impatient. You're not the one who wants to die. Ning Shu was a little impatient. If you think I'm impatient, you don't have to open a consultation office here. That way, I won't ask you for taxes in the future. I said don't be impatient. I guarantee that it's worth exchanging taxes for information, the silver-haired man said. Ning Shu was speechless. I don't want to exchange. Give me the money. Ning Shu felt as if he had grown thorns all over his body. He was very uncomfortable. To put it bluntly, he was afraid that the judge would suddenly jump out. The silver-haired man looked at Ning Shu silently. His two pale fingers overlapped. He looked at Ning Shu like a monkey, scratching his ears and cheeks. Ning Shu, fuck, why was it so difficult to get some taxes? In the future, every cent had to be spent on the blade. Thinking about the tearful process of collecting taxes, Ning Shu only wanted to say, you're making me uncomfortable now. Don't blame me for finding trouble for you in the future. I don't believe that you won't have anything to ask of me in the future. Ning Shu sat on the doorstep and looked at the silver-haired man expressionlessly. Neither of them spoke. The silver-haired man spoke first. I'll charge you for the time you're here. I'm here to collect money, not to consult. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. You'll be charged by the time you enter this place, the silver-haired man said. Do you want to exchange information with taxes? Ning Shu was speechless. Ha ha ha. The silver-haired man ignored the sneering Ning Shu and went straight to the point. Every mission taker who wants to build a world needs to connect to the world of samsara. You should know this, right? If you succeed in building a world and connect to the world of samsara of His Excellency, only then can it be considered a world. Moreover, it must be a world with living creatures, understand? Ning Shu, not really. The silver-haired man glanced at Ning Shu and continued, in other words, the world you construct is the same as the billions of planes. It has to be connected to the world of reincarnation of the Abyssal Prefect. Only then can living beings be reincarnated. There is life and death. Ning Shu replied with an "oh" and asked, is the world you built together with the world of samsara of His Excellency? Yes. The silver-haired man nodded. The world of samsara is also born from the sea of law. It has the same number of planes as the billions of planes. Yin and Yang, the existence of the world of samsara allows living beings to live and die and reincarnate. Ning Shu's eyes turned and asked, is His Excellency the person in charge of the world of samsara? Yes, he lives in Chang'an and dies in Mount Tai. Ordinary people call him Lord of Mount Tai. The silver-haired man would answer whatever Ning Shu asked. Wasn't Lord of Mount Tai the mountain god of Mount Tai? Alright, some things shouldn't be taken too seriously. This kind of information is also worth the taxes. Don't forget, you still owe me 3 free questions. There's only one left now. Ning Shu said with a smirk. I can give you the contact of His Excellency. The silver-haired man said, once the world is built and there are living beings, connect it to the world of samsara. No need, because I have already built the world of samsara. Ning Shu stretched out his hand, give me the money, I don't need the information you gave me at all. The silver-haired man raised his eyebrows, you built the world of samsara? Ning Shu nodded, so give me the money. Ning Shu was really afraid that the judge would suddenly appear. The silver-haired man said, come in, no one can do anything to you. No, the air at the door is better. It's easy to say, you're not the one being hunted. The silver-haired man threw a piece of paper to Ning Shu. Ning Shu used 2 fingers to catch the paper. It looked like a business card, with 2 words on it, His Excellency, followed by his contact information. Using these things to evade taxes, I despise you. However, Ning Shu still kept the contact information. The silver-haired man asked Ning Shu, you really built the world of samsara? Give me the taxes, and I'll tell you. Ning Shu sat on the doorstep, like a beggar begging for money, and asked the silver-haired man for money. Ning Shu was very irritated. Did he have any morals? Shouldn't he pay the taxes? He really wanted to call the silver-haired man a book of Taoism. I'll give you this question for free. The silver-haired man took out his identity card and swiped the taxes to Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at the money the silver-haired man swiped and almost spat out blood. What the hell? 100 merit points. Ning Shu looked at the silver-haired man expressionlessly, I'm really angry. How can you play people like this? The silver-haired man said indifferently, my business is not good. This tax is correct. You can check it. Ning Shu's mouth twitched, you're so greedy, and you only pay such a small amount of taxes. Who are you trying to cheat? Mei Ziqing had only sat here for a while, and he had already been extorted of several merit points. How could such a stingy person be poor? Then why are you opening so many branches? Ning Shu said incredulously. It's because there aren't many people. That's why I have to open branches everywhere. The silver-haired man said indifferently. Ning Shu suspected that this person's reason for opening branches was to scam more people. The chances of scamming people were higher. Actually, this is a semi-charitable business. I give guidance to confused mission takers, so the money isn't much, the silver-haired man said. Ning Shu, they all felt touched. Ha! The silver-haired man had built his own world. With the power of faith and merit provided by the world, this amount of money was indeed nothing. But why did he have to scam everyone he caught? Ning Shu felt that he was one of the scammed people. You really built the world of reincarnation. The silver-haired man seemed to be very serious about the matters in the world of reincarnation. Ning Shu nodded her head listlessly. She had suffered a great shock, and after going through so much trouble, she only managed to get such a small amount of tax. This feeling made Ning Shu want to strangle the silver-haired man to death. How's the evolution going? The silver-haired man asked with his fingers crossed. Ning Shu shook his head, not very good. I just built it not long ago. I'm leaving. Then previously, when the Taishu and the silver-haired man got together, it wasn't for tax evasion. They must have been discussing something. The last time he saw the two of them together, they were about to wipe out those who failed too many missions, and completed too many missions. That time, she was almost completely wiped out. What were they whispering about this time? Ning Shu coughed and wanted to ask, but this kind of thing wasn't for her to interfere. Even if there was a policy, she would find out sooner or later. Ning Shu closed his mouth. She was almost not qualified to ask. If she wasn't qualified to ask, she was too lazy to ask. So much for reading novels. Chapter 2021. Ning Shu didn't even want to say a word after receiving only 100 merit points as tax. She risked being obliterated and sneaked around like a thief. She even asked Mei Ziqing to act as a vanguard. In the end, she only received 100 merit points. Ning Shu cursed in his heart. This was so boring. Instead of arguing with the silver-haired man, he might as well do missions. The soul value was so much better. He felt drunk. Ning Shu couldn't say a word for a long time. He had never met such a stingy person. He took a deep breath and asked, "Is this really all?" The silver-haired man, "Of course, you can check." Ning Shu, huh? Ning Shu really didn't know what to say. She turned around and left. She had to run quickly. What if the judge appeared again? It would be too sad to die for 100 merit points. After Ning Shu left, the silver-haired man picked up his book, stood up, and walked into the inner room. The consultation room was empty. Ning Shu entered the restaurant. Mei Ziqing and Xiao Huo were eating. Seeing Ning Shu, Mei Ziqing asked, "Did you get the tax?" "Guess." Ning Shu took a sip of tea expressionlessly. Mei Ziqing said, "Looking at you, it didn't go well." "You didn't get it." "Almost there." Ning Shu gulped down the whole cup of tea. Xiao Hua immediately refilled Ning Shu's teacup and then remained silent. The atmosphere was a little bad now. "Why do you look like that when you got it?" Mei Ziqing took a sip of tea. She was very relaxed. Ning Shu glanced at her and said, "He gave me 100 merit points. The consultation room's business is so bad." Mei Ziqing asked in surprise. "Ning Shu, why didn't you think about the fact that he's missing out on my taxes?" Ning Shu said in a bad mood. "The auction house is bullying you. Although the consultation room is a little greedy, it's not to the extent that they don't give you anything," Mei Ziqing said casually. Mei Ziqing said casually, "The consultation room has existed since a long time ago. I don't think it would lack something like this. Perhaps the business is really bad." Ning Shu couldn't be bothered to fuss over these things. She browsed through the information that the silver-haired man had given her. It wasn't very useful. It was just that he had given her the contact information of an abyssal prefect. The abyssal prefect was someone who controlled billions of reincarnation worlds. Why would he have the time to bother with her? Therefore, it was basically nonsense, but he made it sound very high and mighty. Mei Ziqing shrugged and didn't say anything. Ning Shu changed the topic and asked, "How's your understanding of the laws?" "So, Mei Ziqing said. "Have you begun to construct the world?" Ning Shu asked. "Yes, there is no world carrier. I haven't found a suitable world carrier." Ning Shu, "Then what are you doing?" "Do the missions and survive. Worlds are easy to construct, but the world's origin is not easy to find. Even if you successfully construct it, it might just be a space, and it might not even be able to produce life. Take your time, what's the rush?" Mei Ziqing said casually. Ning Shu said, "Oh, what the heck. I'm a fugitive now." "I'm not a fugitive. I can't understand your frustration." Mei Ziqing said with a grin. "Don't gloat. I'm leaving." Ning Shu said to Mei Ziqing and hurried out of the restaurant to strengthen the enchantment of Water City. Water City was her main source of income. Only by protecting Water City well and not letting anything happen to it would she be able to make a fortune. The more people who came here to comprehend the laws of water, the more people there would be, and the better the business of the shops would be. She would also have to pay a portion of the taxes to the higher-ups, and the rest would be hers. The shops would pay her taxes, and she would pay the taxes to the higher-ups. It was these taxes that allowed her to purchase the reincarnation origin and construct the reincarnation world. If she didn't have 1,000,000, she could only watch as the reincarnation origin was missed. She wouldn't know where to find it next time. Therefore, resources were really good things. She could trade for what she wanted. Therefore, money was good. Problems that could be solved with money were not big problems. What was scary was not having money and resources. After reinforcing the barrier of Water City, Ning Shu hurriedly returned to the system space. She was afraid that the Nephilic judge would jump out from somewhere and try to kill her. Ning Shu lay on the sofa and started munching on the spirit replenishing fruit. To a certain extent, this tree was nourished by souls. Did eating the fruit count as eating a person? Thinking about it that way, it was indeed a little disgusting. Yes, she should eat a few more. Ning Shu was lying on the sofa like a corpse when the chatting system rang. Bored, Ning Shu opened the chatting system. Someone wanted to add her as a friend. Ning Shu sat up and looked at the name of the person who wanted to add her as a friend. Abyssal Prefect? Could it be that person who controlled billions of reincarnation worlds? Could it be someone with the same name? Ning Shu coughed, straightened her back, and accepted. Ning Shu patted her chest. She was a little nervous and didn't send a message over. If she waited for the other party to send a message, what if she made a mistake? Moreover, she was just a small shrimp. Would the Abyssal Prefect be so free to chat with her? Ning Shu looked at the chatting interface. It showed that the other party was typing. Damn, I feel even more nervous. What should I do? Ding dong, a message was sent over. Ning Shu almost jumped in fright. She looked at the other party's message. Abyssal Prefect, hello, I'm Abyssal Prefect. I heard from Little Silver that you created a world of reincarnation. Is that true? Is there a rebirth pool in the world of reincarnation? Ning Shu, what the hell are you talking about? Ning Shu replied, my world of reincarnation is still evolving. There's no rebirth pool. Abyssal Prefect, I see. Is there anything you don't understand? Ning Shu was alarmed. Why was his attitude towards her so amiable? No. Ning Shu directly rejected. Abyssal Prefect, can I take a look at your world of reincarnation? Ning Shu, if you know it's rude, then don't say it. How do you want me to reject? Abyssal Prefect said, you don't have to worry that I will covet your world of reincarnation. It's just that most people choose to create a world of living beings and not a world of reincarnation. All the worlds created by the mission enforcers are connected to the world of reincarnation. I'm very happy that someone can be self-sufficient. Also, if your world of reincarnation is connected to billions of worlds, that would be even better. She really didn't know how to accept his words. 2333 said, don't be so stupid to connect billions of worlds. Countless souls will squeeze here. Your world is still a half-finished product. Worlds were like machines. If they were overused, they would be destroyed. Nothing was eternal. Ning Shu said to Abyssal Prefect, my world hasn't fully evolved. It's okay, I can help you take a look. Abyssal Prefect said. Ning Shu asked, what kind of person is he? She had rejected him time and time again, but he didn't seem to have noticed. Chapter 2022. 2333, he won't be interested in your space. At most, he wants to connect your world of reincarnation to billions of planes to reduce the burden on the world of reincarnation. Ning Shu asked back, aren't there many worlds of reincarnation? There were almost as many worlds of reincarnation as there were planes. 2333 said, in the life plane, the creatures of the sea, land, and air are all squeezed together after they die. Although each reincarnation plane has a corresponding life plane, the souls of all races are squeezed together. Can you imagine how crowded it is? Fortunately, the souls have to be reincarnated back to the world of life. Otherwise, the world of reincarnation would really explode. Ning Shu nodded and heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that there was no reason to be so polite. Moreover, the two sides were not on the same level. The Abyssal Prefect sent another message. May I know where we're meeting? Ning Shu, it seemed like he had to go and meet him. Otherwise, this person would not stop pestering him. Ning Shu, let's meet in the City of Water. His Excellency, okay, he just came back from the City of Water and now he had to go again. Ning Shu felt that he was really busy. Why was it so hard to sit down and rest for a while? Ning Shu appeared in the City of Water and was told to meet the silver-haired man in the consultation room. Ning Shu, damn it, I don't want to go. Ning Shu dawdled to the consultation room and walked in. He saw that other than the silver-haired man, there was also a man in a suit and a bow tie. The suit was well ironed, with dark stripes and a pair of shiny leather shoes. The man's face was very pale. His pale fingers were crossed and he was talking to the silver-haired man. When he saw Ning Shu, he turned to look at Ning Shu. A pair of dark eyes sized up Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled and stood up. He took a pair of black flowers and handed it to Ning Shu. For you. These words were like black roses, pure black. They emitted a wonderful fragrance, making people feel a sense of happiness from their hearts. They felt that the world was full of beauty and hope. Although he didn't know what kind of flower it was, it must be something good if it could make people feel positive emotions. Ning Shu didn't want to accept it. The silver-haired man said, I can't refuse an elder's gift. Accept it. The abyssal prefect nodded. Accept it. Ning Shu stretched out his hand and placed it close to the abyssal prefect's hand. Immediately, the difference in their skin color appeared. Ning Shu was a patient when he was alive, so his face was very pale. His entire body was pale, but the abyssal prefect's hand was even paler. Ning Shu took the black rose and asked, what kind of flower is this? I don't have a name. You can call me anything you want, His Excellency said gently. He didn't expect the person who controlled the world of reincarnation to be like this, gentle and gentle. Ning Shu sniffed the flower. Then let it have no name. It doesn't deserve any name. Ning Shu didn't know what to say when the other party gave him a flower out of politeness. You seem to be a law incarnation. Not bad, the abyssal prefect said. Ning Shu smiled and said, I was just lucky. Can you invite me to your world of reincarnation to take a look? The abyssal prefect asked. Ning Shu nodded. A black hole appeared in front of him. The abyssal prefect and Ning Shu walked into the black hole together. The black hole disappeared and the two of them disappeared from the consultation room. It was as if they had never appeared. Ning Shu and the abyssal prefect appeared in the dark world of reincarnation. The abyssal prefect looked around. This world is bigger than I thought. How did you create the world of reincarnation? Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu saw the abyssal prefect's gentle attitude and told him about the fusion of the soul pearl and the pearl that could pass through any plane to absorb living beings. The abyssal prefect closed his eyes and listened to Ning Shu's words. Finally, he said, life's opportunities are so miraculous. The abyssal prefect and Ning Shu stepped on the black sand and traveled through the endless black desert. Yes, it hasn't fully evolved yet. The abyssal prefect said. He looked at the towering Nine-Palace mountain. This is also a good thing. Use it well. Ning Shu saw the abyssal prefect looking at the Nine-Palace mountain and felt that he was measuring the abyssal prefect's heart with his own yardstick. Maybe something that he thought was amazing was nothing in the eyes of others. Ning Shu nodded. The abyssal prefect said, don't worry. Let the world evolve slowly. The abyssal prefect took a step back and directly passed through Ning Shu's world of reincarnation and disappeared. Ning Shu also came out of the world of reincarnation. He came out of the black hole at about the same time as the abyssal prefect. The silver-haired man was flipping through a book. When he saw the two of them come back, he closed the thick book. The abyssal prefect said, it is indeed the world of reincarnation. However, it is still an immature world. The silver-haired man raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything. The abyssal prefect said to Ning Shu, let the world evolve slowly. Don't spoil it with excessive enthusiasm. Don't release the soul in that mountain. It will cause great harm to the world of reincarnation. As the abyssal prefect said this, a black door appeared in front of him. It was covered with complicated patterns. The abyssal prefect stepped into the door and then disappeared. The door also disappeared. Then, only Ning Shu and the silver-haired man were left. Ning Shu just wanted to roll his eyes. The silver-haired man said indifferently, "Since you have built the world of reincarnation, let your system make a report to the higher-ups and let them record it. If anything happens, you can use this to cover up." Ning Shu said, "Well, thank you. I'm leaving." 5 merit points, the silver-haired man said. Ning Shu was already used to the silver-haired man's stinginess and black heart. He said directly, "Did I ask you anything? You should ask me for money." Not only was he black-hearted, he was also fucking unreasonable. To ask for 100 merit points, Ning Shu had really used all his strength. Now, he didn't know what he had said, but he asked for 5 merit points. Go to hell. From the moment you enter, you have to start charging. Don't you know this rule? The silver-haired man said, "I want you to be a notary of the world and record it. Even if someone snatches it, the world is still yours. It's like a patent application. Do you understand? Isn't this worth 5 merit points?" Ning Shu gave him a thumbs up. "You're awesome. Thank you for the compliment. Pay up." The silver-haired man said, "Knowledge is priceless. I'm just taking a little. Consider it charity." Ning Shu took out her ID card and transferred 5 merit points to the silver-haired man. Then, she hurriedly ran away. If she stayed here any longer, she didn't know how much money she would have to pay. In the silver-haired man's shop, even air cost money. Charity. How could the silver-haired man have the nerve to say that? As for the abyssal prefect that he had just met, he looked gentle and elegant. However, Ning Shu didn't believe that he was as simple as he appeared to be. Managing so many worlds of reincarnation, how could there not be some ferocious souls? How could he suppress these souls? Killing souls was probably like cutting chives. He should also have a group of people managing the various worlds of reincarnation. Chapter 2023. Ning Shu returned to the system space. He was always running back and forth. Even in his soul state, Ning Shu felt a little tired and slumped on the sofa. Let's make a report. Proving that this world belonged to him was like applying for a patent. Only when he applied for it would the patent be his. If it was really stolen, there would be a file to check. However, everyone's world was almost merged with their own. The chances of it being stolen were very small. 2333 reported to the higher-ups. Soon, the main system gave a reply. It gave him a booklet, saying that it was for proof. It was a red booklet. Ning Shu thought it was a marriage certificate. Ning Shu opened the booklet. Written on it was Ning Shu's name and the reincarnation world. It was a legal document from the organization. It felt like a place of origin and an ID card. Ning Shu felt that he seemed to have entered a new height. Well, he was already a member. This was a member's certificate. Ning Shu put away the booklet. Then, he found a vase for the black roses. A bright red rose, a pure black rose. There was also a lotus in the system space. Her system space was probably going to become a flower garden, collecting all kinds of flowers. Too many things had happened. Ning Shu planned to rest for a while. He lay on the sofa and nibbled on a fruit. He asked 2333, "Do you think it's possible that I won't be erased?" "You can hang around in front of the judge and see if he will erase you," 2333 said. "The world you built is not a success. After all, it's only a half-finished product. So, I'm not sure if you will be erased." So, in the future, he still had to avoid the judge. When he completely built the world, he would definitely be able to float in front of the judge. This feeling was really good. Ning Shu just flipped through his mind. There was also the law of water, light, and darkness. Ning Shu sat on the sofa. There were many spirit-replenishing fruit pits on the ground. Ning Shu took a hammer and smashed the pits. He wanted to see what the kernels looked like. What surprised Ning Shu was that there was something transparent in the core of the fruit that looked like a baby. It dissipated in an instant. What the hell was this? The spirit-replenishing fruit tree was really strange. There should be soul power in the core, 2333 said, but it disappeared in an instant. An incomparably small baby was curled up in the core of the fruit. Although this baby was made of soul force, it was still a little frightening. Could it be that the spirit-replenishing fruit tree wanted to create a person? The flesh on the outside provided nutrients for the core inside. It was a little strange. Ning Shu felt that his soul had become much tougher. When he pressed his finger on his soul, he felt as if he was pressing on armor. She didn't eat a bunch of spirit-replenishing fruits in vain. Next time, when she had time, she would go and see what was so special about the spirit-replenishing fruit tree. It was just that the spirit-replenishing fruit tree had a lot of tentacles, which was troublesome. Ning Shu was still thinking about the spirit-replenishing fruit tree when she heard a ding-dong from the chat system. Who was looking for her? Ning Shu opened the chat system and saw that someone had invited her to a chat group. Moreover, the people in this chat group were all mission enforcers who had constructed the world. Ning Shu didn't want to join the chat group. After the incident with the law group last time, Ning Shu wasn't very enthusiastic about joining chat groups. Moreover, she didn't speak more than 10 sentences in the law incarnation group. Therefore, Ning Shu didn't plan to join the chat group. She wasn't very popular in the chat group. It was better to be alone. Ning Shu ignored this message and said to 2333, let's go do the mission. After completing the mission, they would look for the origin of the world. 2333 asked, do the system mission. Ning Shu, do it, Ning Shu said. 2333, really? Then I won't do it. Okay, let's do it now. 2333 directly flipped Ning Shu over and violently threw Ning Shu out of the system space. Ning Shu, fuck. Was he so afraid that she would go back on her word? It was probably because his soul had become stronger. Even if he was treated so violently, his soul didn't feel much discomfort. Ning Shu felt that he had merged with a soul and quickly woke up. Ning Shu sat up from the bed and felt a headache. He rubbed his head and then rubbed his nose. His nose was a little stuffy and uncomfortable. Looking at the decorations around, this was a modern world. System mission. Ning Shu took a deep breath and began to accept the plot. The client was called Ro Xueqiao. She was the daughter of a rich family. She was beautiful and a winner in life. However, he met a loser, Zhao Liang. This loser was Zhao Liang. This Zhao Liang was a child of an ordinary family. His parents worked in a factory. It was not easy to find a college student. In the end, Zhao Liang was a cynical person who had high standards but little ability. After graduation, he didn't have money to borrow money from his classmates. In the end, his classmates didn't lend him money. So he bore a grudge against his classmates and said that they looked down on him. In short, he complained about his classmates and gnashed his teeth. Anyway, he didn't have any ability and his temper was a little bad. He felt that others looked down on him. He always felt that it was the fault of the society and other people's fault. After being accidentally hit by a car, Zhao Liang woke up and opened his Sharingan, no, X-ray vision. He could see other people's bodies through their clothes. This kind of abnormality was simply a man's dream. X-ray vision could see people's bodies through their clothes. It could especially satisfy men's desire to see women. It was extremely wretched. From then on, Zhao Liang would open his Sharingan, no, X-ray vision whenever he met a beautiful woman. He began to evaluate her face and body. In Zhao Liang's eyes, all the beautiful women were naked. Walking on the street, the women on the street were all naked. When he first got this ability, he was very excited. He even squatted on the road to look at the beautiful women. Drool flowed out of his mouth. Later, Zhao Liang realized that this X-ray vision could not only see beautiful women but also bring him money and fame. The X-ray vision could see through the appearance and see the essence. Stone gambling was simply profitable. The X-ray vision could clearly see what kind of jade was wrapped in the raw stone. Jade was very precious, especially jade with a good water source. Zhao Liang gained some capital through stone gambling. After that, he began to play with antiques. The real and fake antiques couldn't hide from Zhao Liang's X-ray vision. He also picked up a lot of real antiques. Stone gambling and antiques were violent. Therefore, Zhao Liang accumulated some capital. X-ray vision was also unique in gambling and medical treatment. It could see through the human body and see the internal organs of a person clearly. Especially in gambling, it could see clearly the cards, dice and so on. Relying on this cheating device, Zhao Liang could make a fortune by gambling. Chapter 2024. Money makes the world go round. Once a man had money and power, his charm value would rise in the hearts of women. Zhao Liang earned money and took the lead in buying a big house for his parents to live in. The little girl next door, who used to ignore him, now followed him and called him brother. The neighbors who used to live opposite their family always looked down on them. They always said that the Zhao family should not find such a person as a boyfriend in the future. The little girl who used to look down on people with her nose was now smiling at him sweetly. This feeling was too comfortable and too light. Zhao Liang did not put in any effort to get everything. He got it easily with his X-ray vision. The X-ray vision ability made Zhao Liang an expert in treasure appraisal and a big crocodile in stone gambling. Most of the raw stones he took a fancy to could produce the best jade, especially some of the best jade, such as the Emperor Green Jade. A good piece of jade was worth tens of millions. The poor played with cars, the rich played with jade, the scammers showed off their mobile phones, and the rich showed off their computers. Ordinary people could only vomit blood. With capital, Zhao Liang took the money directly to the company where the classmate who borrowed money worked. He directly took a lot of money and splashed it on the classmate's face. You were not willing to lend me money because you were afraid that I could not afford it. Now, these are for you. You were blind at that time. Riches and honor do not return home. It is like walking in the night. I now have a lot of beautiful clothes and beautiful girls. I was bullied by my classmate when I borrowed money. Now, I am back to slap his face. Ning Shu estimated that the classmate was sullen to death. I can lend you my money if I want to. If I don't want to, I won't. The incident of borrowing money made the classmate lose face in front of his colleagues. He was also fired. Now, Zhao Liang had money. He invested in a company. To fire a small employee and get an investment, this was something that he did not even need to think about. Previously, Zhao Liang was a young man who struggled to survive in society. He was struggling, confused, and in pain. Now, he had the capital to make others unable to stand in society. Nice cars and beautiful girls were the standard of the rich. Unconsciously, many beautiful girls had gathered around Zhao Liang. For the women who came to him, Zhao Liang accepted them with a smile. In the past, these beautiful girls would not even look at him. Now, they looked at him differently. Maybe Zhao Liang had no scruples. He directly told these women that he had more than one woman. But these women were like pigs. Although they were jealous, they could get along with each other like in ancient times. This is Zhao Liang entered and exited high-class places, appraising treasures for others, and became a successful person. If he saw a beautiful woman falling into prostitution, he would save her. Zhao Liang was also generous to his women. If they asked for money, he would give them money. He even gave some of the best quality jade stones to his women to make jewelry. Zhao Liang's hunting didn't care about your identity. The premise was that you were beautiful enough. The client and Rou Xueqiao met at a banquet. Rou Xueqiao looked noble and dignified. She had a noble temperament and was different from ordinary beauties. Ordinary women could use money, but how could a girl born in a wealthy family not see money? Had she not seen anything rare? If you want to conquer such a woman, you have to show her your powerful abilities and skills. The client's grandfather had a heart attack during the banquet. Zhao Liang calmly used his X-ray vision to observe the client's condition and then began to treat him. Needless to say, this action made Zhao Liang fiercely brush up his presence in front of Rou Xueqiao, successfully making Rou Xueqiao remember Zhao Liang as a man. Because he saved the old man of the Roa family, Zhao Liang was also known by some people in the upper class. Then, he opened up a road to wealth. How could people not get sick when they eat grains? Using X-ray vision, Zhao Liang could always cure the disease. Therefore, many big shots owed Zhao Liang a favor. Zhao Liang took a fancy to Rou Xueqiao. Although Rou Xueqiao felt that this man had a promising future and saved her grandfather's life, Rou Xueqiao had a fiancé. The other party was a person with poor health. His body was ill and he spent half of the year in the hospital. Although she was unwilling to accept her fate, she had to pay for what she enjoyed. Rou Xueqiao could only be like this. Zhao Liang was very satisfied with Rou Xueqiao. She was beautiful and had a good family background. Her temperament was noble and she had a melancholy. It made people feel distressed when they saw her. It couldn't be better to get this kind of rich and beautiful goddess into his pocket. Zhao Liang was very attentive to Rou Xueqiao. He gave her some things that weren't worth much, but they were full of his heart. Rou Xueqiao had a good impression of Zhao Liang, but she didn't agree to date Zhao Liang. She was born in a wealthy family. Many people paid attention to her words and actions. Rou Xueqiao didn't let go. Zhao Liang became more energetic and more attentive to Rou Xueqiao. Rou Xueqiao said that she had a fiancé. He was from another family and wouldn't have anything to do with Zhao Liang. Perhaps Rou Xueqiao's fiancé knew something. The wedding was brought forward a lot. Rou Xueqiao was going to get married in a short period of time. Rou Xueqiao firmly rejected Zhao Liang. In fact, the current Rou family was already going downhill. A beautiful girl raised by an aristocratic family was going to marry a sick person. It meant a marriage alliance. When Rou Xueqiao got married, Zhao Liang ran to cause trouble. He directly made Rou Xueqiao's fiancé fall to the ground in anger. He even dragged Rou Xueqiao away, saying that Rou Xueqiao wouldn't be happy with such a man. Rou Xueqiao was dragged away by Zhao Liang. Then, Rou Xueqiao was horrified to find that this man still had many female confidants. Rou Xueqiao's fiancé was sent to the hospital. His condition worsened, causing the Rou family to suffer. Because of this, Rou Xueqiao was miserably scammed by the Rou family. Rou Xueqiao's heart was bitter. This man had so many female confidants, yet he still wanted to chase after her. Now, she couldn't get off the stage. Rou Xueqiao went to the hospital to take care of her fiancé, but she couldn't even enter the ward. Rou Xueqiao's actions directly angered Zhao Liang. He had already saved her, yet he still wanted to jump into the fire pit. With his ability, he could completely help the Rou family. For a man, he hoped that a woman wouldn't ask why. She only needed to be full of confidence in him and bet all her treasures on him. Clearly, Rou Xueqiao's actions disappointed Zhao Liang. He couldn't compare to the Rou family now, but it didn't mean that the Zhao family could also become a wealthy family in the future. At that time, Rou Xueqiao would regret it. Zhao Liang intentionally or unintentionally pushed out the Rou family. Especially since Zhao Liang knew many big shots, it made the Rou family's days even worse. It made the short-sighted woman who didn't recognize the treasure regret it. Zhao Liang had a strong sense of self-esteem. It was the kind of person who passed by Zhao Liang and couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of saliva when his throat was inflamed. Zhao Liang felt that the other party was humiliating him. Under his extreme self-esteem, he felt extremely inferior. The classmate who had borrowed money from him before, and now the ignorant Rou Xueqiao had touched a piece of soft meat in his heart. Chapter 2025. Falling in Love with You, Transmigrating Canon Fodder. Female supporting character. Counterattack. What Zhao Liang hated the most was others looking down on him. Rou Xueqiao's actions were simply slapping Zhao Liang's face. Choosing a sickly person over him made Zhao Liang furious. In Zhao Liang's words, he couldn't tolerate betrayal. He felt that others looked down on him. Rou Xueqiao was speechless. She had never seen such a narrow-minded man. You have so many close female friends and so many good sisters. She wanted to marry someone else, but he didn't let her marry him. He even looked like she had let this man down. Rou Xueqiao was so angry that she laughed. Not only did she not regret it, she was still stubborn and had no foresight. The situation of the Rou family was getting worse and worse. They stood on the wrong side during the election, causing the situation of the Rou family to deteriorate. Now that this kind of thing happened, the fiancé's family was unhappy and tormented the Rou family. Zhao Liang was uncomfortable and tormented the Rou family. The Rou Xueqiao, the daughter of a rich family, still had to go out to work. When she was working, she met Zhao Liang. Zhao Liang stuffed money into Rou Xueqiao's collar and then sneered at Rou Xueqiao. Rou Xueqiao's wish was, "I'm going to marry the sickly person." She looked down on Zhao Liang and saved the Rou family's ship that was already leaking. Rou Xueqiao was a member of the Rou family. The decline of the Rou family was due to various reasons. There was also the torment of the fiancé's family and Zhao Liang. Especially after this incident, Rou Xueqiao's fiancé died after lying in bed for more than 2 months. There was no room for negotiation. Rou Xueqiao's identity was awkward. She really didn't know how to deal with it. It seemed that the former bosom friends, best friends, and so on, were no longer in contact. It was already very friendly not to hit someone when they were down. However, the women who followed Zhao Liang were not so polite to Rou Xueqiao. One by one, they mocked Rou Xueqiao for not being tactful and not being smart. What was the point of marrying a sickly person? Now that the sickly person couldn't get anything, it made Zhao Liang uncomfortable. Perhaps Rou Xueqiao was a rich young lady and had seen a lot of the world. For these women to surround a man, and this man was not very handsome, so stubborn, those women could not understand Rou Xueqiao, and Rou Xueqiao could not understand them. One of the girls was Rou Xueqiao's best friend. She was a clever and eccentric girl who especially liked to tease people. She also took a fancy to Zhao Liang. However, she had a good eye and found that Zhao Liang was a very interesting person. After interacting with him, she became interested in Zhao Liang. She also advised Rou Xueqiao that following Zhao Liang was better than following that sick man. If she were to follow a sickly man, she would have no future prospects for the rest of her life. In short, Rou Xueqiao's 3 views were shattered. Such a proud best friend shared a man with others. Her brain was muddled. Even if her best friend said that Zhao Liang was good to every woman, Rou Xueqiao still felt inexplicable. This was an affectionate scumbag. He was proud that there were so many women following him wholeheartedly because of his charm. Rou Xueqiao felt that she was very unlucky to have met Zhao Liang. What made people even more speechless was that it seemed that not following Zhao Liang was her fault. Even at the most difficult time, Rou Xueqiao did not go to Zhao Liang. Rou Xueqiao's life was quite difficult. Ning Shu wiped his face. Wasn't it a system? How could it be X-ray vision? This was not a system, right? He felt that all these fortuitous encounters had fallen on this kind of person. He had nothing, but he still blamed the heavens and people all day long. The road was not smooth, and he blamed society. It was all other people's fault. All day long, he hoped that the world would fall into his lap. He hoped that the world would fall into his lap. He might as well hope that the world would fall into his lap. It was more realistic to hope that the world would fall into his lap. Ning Shu 2333 said, "This is not a system, right? It's a superpower. It's the same nature. We have to get rid of this superpower." 23,333 said. Ning Shu said directly, "This is simple. Just blind Zhao Liang's eyes." 23333, it's useless to blind him. You have to make the superpower disappear. In other words, you have to get rid of Zhao Liang. If you blind him, the superpower will remain in Zhao Liang's body. It will become another superpower, such as invisibility or something. 23333 said, "This is not a superpower world. This kind of superpower is an invader. It will not be able to gain any benefits from the host. This way, the superpower will leave the host. It's the same as dealing with the system." Ning Shu nodded. It seemed that the system's mission was not a simple system mission. There were other statuses, such as superpowers. In this kind of world, superpowers did not exist. If it was the end of the world, or a world where superpowers existed, they would not be considered invaders. Perhaps there was more than one person in this world with superpowers, but there was really no one who could turn the world upside down like this. As his wealth, reputation, and social status increased, the luck of the world would inevitably tilt towards Zhao Liang. Ning Shu's nose was running. She came at a bad time. It seemed that the current Zhao Liang had some capital. Moreover, at the banquet, he had saved Rou Xueqiao's grandfather. Her grandfather had a very good impression of Zhao Liang. After all, he was a lifesaver. Ning Shu went out to find a servant to take some medicine. She did not know why she had caught a cold. The servant saw that Ning Shu's face was not good and asked, "Miss, are you not feeling well?" "I'm fine," Ning Shu said directly. She glanced at the servant and went upstairs. The servant waited until Ning Shu went upstairs. She picked up the phone and dialed someone. It should be to call Zhao Liang. It did not take long for Zhao Liang to come over. Zhao Liang was generous. Even if the maid working in the Rou family had a good salary, it would be great if there was an extra tip or a jade earring. The jade earring that Zhao Liang gave to the servant was made of jade scraps. It was not distressing at all. However, it could be used to bribe people. Moreover, Rou Xueqiao was noble and elegant. It would take a lot of effort to woo her. Ning Shu returned to her room and opened the cloakroom. She wanted to wear 2 more clothes. After all, in Zhao Liang's eyes, she was as if she was naked. She felt like she was being watched, but it was not good to flare up. "I flare up when I look at you. Can't you be watched by others?" Who knew that Zhao Liang's eyes were laser eyes? Ning Shu rummaged for a while but could not find a prop that could resist X-ray vision. No matter how many clothes she wore, it was almost the same as running naked in Zhao Liang's eyes. Damn, this feeling was really fucking unpleasant. Zhao Liang's X-ray vision was similar to Ning Shu's spiritual power. Moreover, Ning Shu's spiritual power covered a large area. Zhao Liang could only see things with his X-ray vision. Ning Shu also gave up wearing many clothes to resist Zhao Liang's spiritual power. If it really did not work, she could try to cover her body with a layer of enchantment with the law of water. Just read a refreshing novel. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.